Match Network with Spumelele Zondi on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m.
The Union Nahawu will stage a march in the northwest capital Mahikeng, demanding action on the crisis in the province. The City of Cape Town Mayoral Committee member and DA Deputy Caucus leader JP Smith says reinstalled Mayor Patricia de Lille is not fit for office. Convicted murderer Christopher Paniatu will today apply for leave to appeal against his conviction and sentence in the Port Elizabeth High Court in the Eastern Cape.
And in sports, Spanish La Liga champions Barcelona touched down at the Oro Tambo International Airport for the international club friendly against Mamelodi Sundowns tonight.
Hello and welcome to SABC Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Coming up this hour, we give you updates on the Nahawu strike in the northwest. Selwane for SABC News is standing by with that. Of course, I'm not alone. Valen Kirtley is standing by with all your sporting highlights this morning. Very good morning to you. Very happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday to you too, Shante. Thank you very much. A busy sport morning, especially when it comes to football. Not only have we got Barcelona touching down, arriving in Johannesburg for tonight's match in celebration of Nelson Mandela's centenary year, but also we've got the High Court application by Ajax Cape Town to stop the promotion relegation playoffs from actually going ahead. So there's lots to speak about when it comes to sports, so stay tuned to Newsroom. Otherwise, there'll be a full sports bulletin at a quarter to the top of the hour. First, though, it's back to Shante for your top stories.
Breaking news is coming in. Ajay Gupta has denied all allegations of state capture leveled against him. Gupta broke his silence around his current status since he left South Africa in March after a summons was issued for his arrest. He is currently in his hometown of Saharanpur. Well, he's told Indian media that he wants to set the record straight for the people of his hometown. He claims he was maligned by the press in South Africa, saying the media in the country have an agenda against him. Well, responding to the allegations of state capture, Ajay says there is no proof of any of the allegations that have been leveled against his family. He also maintains all his family members, except himself, are South African citizens. Have a look at some other news stories this morning. Well, the interministerial task team that's been assigned to look into the recent violence in the northwest is expected to release its preliminary report later today. Well, this as Education and Health Union Nahawu is set to march in the capital Mahikeng this morning. They are demonstrating against the crisis across provincial departments. For the latest on the march in Mahikeng, we are now joined live from the northwest. Our reporter Selwane Gakao is on the ground. A very good morning to you, Selwane. Just take us through some of the details around the march that's expected to take place this morning.
Well, a very good morning to you, Shante. Indeed, we are coming live to you from Mahikeng, where we are expecting to see the streets of Nahawu, the streets of Mahikeng, rather, pardon me, filled by members of Nahawu, as they will be having a march this morning. We are expecting the march to be quite large in number, as we know that Nahawu has mobilized some of its members from various provinces, 5 provinces, including the Free State, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, as well as Gauteng. And we also told that the National Executive Committee of Nahawu will also be part of this march. Right now, we're going to speak to the General Secretary of Nahawu, Mr. Zola Sapeta, and he will bring us into those issues. Sir, please tell us, this march, we've seen a lot of these marches of Nahawu, but what is different about today's one?
This one is different from the marches that have been taking place here, because here it has been provincial marches. This one is elevated now national. That's why the National Executive Committee and the national office bearers are here. So it's a national day of action in solidarity with our members in Northwest.
And then what are some of the issues? Because we know previously the issues have been that Nehawu has been saying there are allegations of corruption within the departments, different departments of the provincial government, including health. So what are the issues today?
Issues really, the overarching issues are corruption, which cut across all departments, including the office of the Premier. As you recall that some departments were under administration, so their performance was they were located in the Premier's office. So some of irregularities happened in the Premier's office. But secondly, issues related to human resource related issues that are bargaining in nature, but also issues of occupational and health and safety. As you recall that in a social development, the conditions of building are not favorable or complying with the law. And also there are issues that related to transformation, but also issues of creating conducive working environment for our members to be able to work. So we took an opportunity that there's an interministerial task team led by Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, which is to report to the cabinet. We felt that we must have an opportunity as NEHAW also to contribute in terms of the state of government, which we think is at the verge of collapse, to contribute to that so that the interministerial task team, when it reports to the president, it reports in totality.
And then also the media statement that we saw being released recently by NEHAW does say that although it is welcoming the efforts that have been made by the interministerial task team, it is also of the view that it is glossing over serious problems. Also indulge a little bit into that, please.
Firstly, you'll recall that the president only invokes Section 100 of the Department of Health, and our issue is not only the Department of Health. So it means it takes out other departments. That's the first thing. But secondly, the interministerial task team is just making an assessment in terms of the performance of the government. So we feel that it will you do not get into detail to some areas which it perceives as not areas of focus, which in our view are the critical areas to be looked into. So we feel that we need to reinforce their terms of reference, but also help them to come with a conclusive view on the collapse of the government here.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the General Secretary of NEHAW, Mr. Zola Sapeta, telling us there that we can expect to hear some of these issues being raised today at the march. We know that a little bit later on they are going to hand over a memorandum to the minister in the presidency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who of course is leading that interministerial task team that is looking into the Department of Health and the province, and how he is saying that what they would like to see happening is the task team looking into various government departments and not only the Department of Health. Right now, the march has not yet started. We are expecting people to start together at the Muntiwa Stadium around 10 o'clock. Before it starts, we'll definitely be there and we'll give you an update on that. Back to you for now, Shante.
Sebonle, just before we wrap it up, just some clarification on the position regarding the day-to-day running of administration, specifically in the Northwest. Is there an acting premier or not?
What we understand is that the Premier, of course, appointed the MEC of Finance, Wendy Nelson, to be the acting Premier in the province, while he said he will be going on leave. So as far as we understand, that is the situation here in this province, Shante.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that. SABC's Selmane Kakao at the Muntiwa Stadium, where the march is expected to start throughout the course of the morning. We will be giving you updates on that story as soon as the march proceeds this morning. Meanwhile, the EFF has again threatened to go to court if government does not overrule a decision by the Northwest Premier, Supra Mahmupelu, to go on leave and appoint Wendy Nelson as acting Premier. Well, last week, the embattled leader reneged on his earlier decision to resign from office amid accusations of corruption and maladministration, which have led to the collapse of health and other services in the province. EFF leader Julius Malema says they'll be keenly watching the feedback of the task team. Well, Patricia de Lille is expected back in her mayoral office in Cape Town this morning. This after the High Court yesterday ruled in her favour, leading a way for her to stay in office pending a final ruling next week. It relates to her urgent application to challenge the DA's decision to terminate her membership from the party and subsequently remove as mayor. Well, yesterday, Judge Patrick Gamble ruled that the cessation of her membership of the DA be suspended until her urgent interdict against the party's decision is heard on the 25th of May. Well, the DA last week terminated her membership from the party following a radio interview during which she said she would resign as soon as she had cleared her name. DeLille says she is ready to put her differences with the DA aside to focus on the interests of the citizens of Cape Town first. Mayoral Committee member J.P. Smith insists the mayor is not fit to keep her position, and his colleague Xanthia Limburg earlier told Morning Live that the DA caucus has lost faith in DeLille.
It essentially means that the mayor has no authority to make decisions. All decisions will take place in a collective fashion through the mayoral committee as well as through the DA caucus at the City of Cape Town. Well, I think so much water is under the bridge, and the Democratic believes that Mr. Lowell must still go. The people within her caucus, and this is a diverse group of people, have lost confidence in the mayor on 2 occasions already, based on a string of major and serious concerns. And the Democratic Alliance has built up a strong and credible track record of offering a government of transparency and honesty and clean governance. And we believe that the mayor's return to office puts this at jeopardy, and we will continue to strive for a clean administration and keep corruption out. And therefore, we do not believe that the mayor's return to office is in the interest of the people of Cape Town.
Well, convicted murderer Christopher Paniatu will today apply for leave to appeal against his conviction and sentence in the Port Elizabeth High Court in Eastern Cape. Paniatu is serving a life jail term for orchestrating the kidnapping and murder of his wife Jade in April of 2015.
Jade Panayiotou was abducted from outside her Stellinglen complex whilst waiting for her lift on the 21st of April 2015. She was a teacher at Rubik Girls College in Uitenhage. It was later established her bank card was used to withdraw money at an ATM in KwaNobuhle, just outside of Uitenhage. A massive search was then launched online by her family and friends. A day later, her body was found. This open felt just behind me is where Jade Panayiotou's body was found 2 years ago. She was found with a bullet wound to her head. Her post-mortem also revealed that she was shot at close range. That would mean that her killers murdered her, execution style. A 2-year trial followed, revealing the murder plot.
Accused number 1 is found guilty of murder on count 4 and not guilty on the remaining counts. Accused number 3 is found guilty of robbery with aggravating circumstances on count 2, guilty of murder on count 4, and not guilty on the remaining counts. Accused number 4 is found guilty of conspiracy to murder on count 1 and not guilty on the remaining counts.
The alleged middleman, Lutando Sioni, played a key role in the murder and was paid for his role. But he turned state witness, only to be declared a hostile witness during the trial. After the trial, Sioni fled and was on the run for 5 months before being apprehended a week ago. He was instrumental in setting up a sting video in which Panayiotou implicated himself in the crime.
Because these boys made it big. I told you to let them do it outside the house and take the bags and the rings, and then they didn't take the watch or anything. They just left everything there. You see, so it looks like a hit now. So they're after me, and that's why I can't meet you just like this in front of people, Tando.
Judge Dalen Chetty handed down the maximum sentence for the mastermind behind the abduction and murder. Chetty said Panayiotou took no responsibility for the murder of his wife since the start of trial and showed no remorse. Jade Lee Paulser, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba has launched a new digital identification system as part of the department's modernization program at a breakfast meeting in Cape Town. The automated biometric identification system, also known as AVIS, replaces Home Affairs' national identification system, which is manually operated and outdated. Gigaba says the new system will improve the way the identities of South Africans and foreign nationals are authenticated.
going to drastically improve the way we identify South Africans and authenticate the identification of South Africans, including foreign nationals, because it relies not only on the fingerprint scan and facial recognition. It goes a step forward in scanning your DNA, in relying on your iris scan and footprint identification, especially for minor children. It's going to form the backbone of government identification and will enable not only government and other government departments, but also the private sector to be able to authenticate the identities of their clients. It's more reliable than the Home Affairs National Identification System that we have been administering at the present moment. And it actually enables us now going forward to introduce new innovation that will enable services at the department to be quicker, to be more efficient, but also it will enable us to innovate and diversify the points of service that we currently have, so that people don't always have to come to the Department of Home Affairs for the services, but they can be serviced at different points of service.
Why was it time to modernize? We heard you saying in your speech, it's time to upgrade, it's time to modernize. Why now?
Well, we've been running the modernization program for the last few years, and we have arrived with this at a point where we need to just up our game a little bit, because we intend during the course of this year to also start launching the national identity system, which is going to integrate the various forms of identification that we have, the HANIS, the Home Affairs National.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Shervin Brixby's SABC News, New York.
Paul Barber, SABC News, London.
Ntebo Mokobo, SABC Ufa go tswa mo Russia.
Neha Punya, SABC News, Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh in India.
Other than that, I've enjoyed every single moment of it.
SABC News, Soweto, Johannesburg.
32 nations, 44 matches live on SABC 1 and 19 SABC radio stations. SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia. SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
This is your midday report. Good afternoon.
I will be
I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya.
Let's take a look at how African markets and currencies are performing now.
The central bankers say the success of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is just a bubble.
Breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
Shervin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.
Paul Barber, SABC News, London.
Ntebo Mokobo, SABC Ufa go tswa mo Russia.
Neha Punya, SABC News, Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh in India.
Other than that, I've enjoyed every single moment of it.
Takwana Ngatani, SABC News, Soweto, Johannesburg.
Hello, I'm Simpiwe Ngongane, and as usual, I'm in the company of the pearl of the show.
And yes, I'm Pearl Shongwe, and this is the weekend edition of Morning Live,
where we bring you news stories, making headlines, weather updates, and the latest in the world of sports.
Every weekend on Saturday and Sunday mornings, we bring you, our viewer, vibrant, exciting, informative current stories here on the SABC News Channel 404.
And we also put a spotlight on creative art stories, book reviews, poetry, and various topical stories. We also bring you live outside broadcast as well as live music performances.
All of this every weekend
between 6 and 9 here on the SABC News Channel 404.
No. Yes. Yes.
Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
News at 9. We go beyond the headlines of the day and breaking news to bring you all the angles and in-depth analysis of stories that impact your life. We are on the ball with all economic stories. Our bureaus around the globe are ready to connect you to events as and when they happen. So join us every day at 9 to zoom in on the day's big stories.
Technology is used for both positive and negative.
Some governments block the internet in times of protest.
With this internet blackout, it's impossible for me to do it, so I have to travel to Douala.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens.
In Africa, people are always coming up with innovative ways to use technology to solve some of their problems.
The more interesting piece of technology is actually the artificial intelligence.
AI, it's utilizing data to make your life easier.
On Network, we'll give you Africa's technology and social media news.
Catch Network with Spumelele Zondi every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Special assignment. Crime keeps the society in terror and pain. Why so?
If someone phones me, just phones me, tells me, okay, look, I need a silver, and I get you all driving, I'll take it.
What pushes normal people to be so hard, heartless, and brutally kill one another?
The other side of it could be more for their own psychological need. It might be part of a sexual fantasy that they have. It could be about power and control.
After proper investigation is followed, the perpetrator gets arrested.
It's part of massive process. And I think we don't have toilets, so I think justice is served.
Emotional scars remain.
We would pay any price to get him back, and
sad reality is that it's gone.
Special assignment. We unravel the truth every Sunday at 21:30.
The Vredefort Dome incorporates the towns of Parys and Vredefort on the side of the Free State. It straddles the Northwest and Free State provinces, but 70% of it is in the Northwest. It is believed a huge meteorite hit the Earth in the region of 2,023 million years ago. It resulted in what is now the Vredefort Dome. Tourist guide Christo Meyer says there are different theories of what really happened here many years ago. One university believes it was a meteorite impact, while another says it was a volcanic reaction. None of the universities, however, could back up their theories with sufficient evidence.
Today, it is accepted that it is a meteorite impact structure, and it is the largest and the oldest meteorite impact structure so far found on Earth. What makes it unique is the fact that the geological formations have been brought up to the surface.
The site attracts domestic and international geologists because of Vredefort Dome's unique geology. Rocks such as the granophyre are only found here. Until 1978, granite was mined in the area before mining operations ceased. The granite was shipped to Italy for cutting and polishing before being sold in Europe. The granite rocks were used for kitchen and bathroom tiling. Vredefort Dome's rock formations are a subject of study even to this day.
What has happened with the impact of the meteorite is some of the rocks have melted, some of the rocks have been shattered, some of them been shocked, some of it been thrown out and overturned. So a lot of things happened to the rocks. Because of the high level of erosion, these rocks have been exposed, and you can observe them. And without drilling a hole in the ground or without searching, you'll find these things lying on surface. You have to get permission from the landowner or be accompanied by a guide that takes you into the property and explain to you the impact and the effects of the impact and what you see. Because if you don't get somebody to explain that to you, you'll look at the environment, you'll look at the rocks, but you won't know what it all means.
The Vredefort Dome is also a popular destination for local school trips. While on these educational tours, learners get field experiences on specific subjects.
All of them here are grade 10 and 11 geography students. And I think one of our jobs is we must try and instill that love for geography in them. And to have this so close by to the school, it was the perfect opportunity.
I've learned a lot about my nation's heritage and how we got here and why we're here, and the things that have affected us that we didn't really pay much attention to. But we found out that a lot of things that happen in this world still affect us to this day. What I found fascinating about this area was how the land was still able to repair itself after such a great damage happened here.
A group of volunteers keep Parys Museum operational and dependent solely on donations for its survival. But for the Northwest University students, The museum is a great source of information. At the museum, they were given information on the entire Fredefort Dome, something they found exceptionally interesting.
I did bring some of my students here today to come and look at specifically old Afrikaans magazines. They are doing an assignment on how language changed over the years, and just to see if there's anything interesting that changed and then why it changed. So we also have the privilege of visiting the museum and seeing all the other history of Parys. Very interesting, especially the short lecture we received on the koepel itself and the history of the dome. So that was very interesting.
We actually came here to do an assignment, and so it was very fun to come out of the classroom and to come and learn here, and we saw all the old books and the papers, and we also learned about the Fredefort Koepel Dome and saw lots of interesting things. It is very rich in culture, and it doesn't only start here in Parys. It actually, we saw now where the gold mines come from and how it came to where it is now, and why they mine and where they mine and how it looks like. So it was very, very interesting.
For those who want to let their head down and enjoy life, the Fredefort Dome offers a wide range of adventures, from motorsport, quad biking and different types of games. The Fredefort Dome lies about 100 kilometers from the city of Johannesburg.
You can see the old granite quarry here at the back, and this is also where we do most of our activities like quad biking and abseiling and river rafting. It happens from this base camp.
At the Vaal River bordering the Free State and Northwest provinces, people come here for leisure. Almost everyone is catered for.
I would say an hour and a half drive, Joburg is mostly where we get our clients from, and obviously locally. And they basically come for family breakaways, corporate events, year-end functions and bachelor parties. And with that also comes the adventure side or team building.
The Fredefort Dome is not only the Northwest Province's iconic landmark, but as a World Heritage Site, it is the nation's pride worthy of protection. However, its beauty and splendor ought to be shared with the world.
Northwest have got beautiful mountains. We are here in the Fredefort Dome. Now we want to develop this area to be something that people can even see the clips of how that happened, because the geographic people will tell you, that people that deal with geography will tell you how that happened.
Although the land within the Fredefort Dome is privately owned, there are growing calls that the government must cooperate with the landowners to make tourism within the dome more accessible.
The Western Cape needs national government to fulfill its mandate on ensuring a bulk water supply.
We must ensure that the city of Cape Town never confronts this particular situation again.
The ESCOM is serious about stamping out corruption, which is why the market is now beginning to accommodate us.
Looking at neighboring countries, expecting Botswana just to see partly cloudy skies with a half 34 in Gaborone.
News today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
No. Yes. Yes.
Welcome back. You're watching SABC Newsroom. Well, Head of Presidency Zizi Kodwa says South Africa will always defend the people of Palestine. Well, speaking earlier on Morning Live, Kodwa criticized the United Nations as saying they failed Palestinians.
The Palestinian people stood with us during the most difficult time, as well as other people of Cuba who sacrificed their own freedom. The little resources they had, they gave to us. They gave us weapons. Some of them, they trained our soldiers in order for us to defeat the evil apartheid system. We defeated it. We can never abandon them during the time such as difficult as this. We cannot side, regardless of how powerful US or Tel Aviv is, we cannot side with them on these issues. We'll side with the people of Palestine. It's not a religious issue. It's an issue of a brutal system of the state. It's an act of terrorism, and it must be called for what it is. What happened to the people of Palestine, 60 of them were killed brutally by the Tel Aviv snipers. It's nothing else but an act of terrorism. The United Nations, unfortunately, has failed the people of Palestine, has failed to side with the vulnerable. Instead, it has protected the US and the powerful. And South Africa, therefore, cannot be found wanting on these issues. We must act decisively. We must downgrade our embassy. We must even review whether we should have any further relations with a state such as the state of Israel.
Well, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies has requested a meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa to discuss the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This is in the wake of South Africa's decision to withdraw its ambassador to Israel following the killing of more than 50 Palestinians by Israeli forces during a protest along the Gaza border. Or Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, BDS, is a Palestinian-led movement operating around the globe for freedom, justice and equality. BDS upholds the simple principle that Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as the rest of humanity. 11 years since its launch, BDS is having a major impact and is effectively challenging international support for Israeli apartheid and settler colonialism. Well, BDS national spokesperson Kwara Kekena now joins us now live. A very good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Essentially, what is BDS's reaction to more than 50 Palestinians dying?
Good morning, Shante. Thank you so much for having us on the show. I think maybe to put things into context in terms of where, leading up to Monday's killings of over 50 Palestinians. So the Palestinians embarked on what they called the Great Return March, beginning of April. It's a 6 weeks kind of demonstration leading up to the 15th of May, which is called the Nakba Day, commemorating a day in which Palestinians were ethnically and systematically cleansed from their homes in 1948, making way for the creation of the modern state of Israel. And since that demonstration started 6 weeks ago, we've seen over 11,000 people that have been wounded, over 100 people that have been killed by the Israeli regime, and just on Monday alone, over 50 people that have been killed just within a 24-hour period. Israel, like what I think Zizi Kodwa was saying in the insert, there is a terrorist regime, and it's simply unacceptable the taking of life at that scale.
Should President Cyril Ramaphosa meet with the South African Jewish Board to discuss what's been happening?
The presidency or government itself has right to meet. South African citizens themselves can request with various government officials or representatives. That is their right. They can afford them that space. But as far as BDS South Africa is concerned, I think with the withdrawal of the ambassador, our South African ambassador to Israel, welcome that position, but we still feel very strongly that more can be done. For example, when you look at the 54th ANC conference resolution that talks about the downgrading of the South African embassy in Israel, it's one step further that the South African government could take. And these were sentiments also expressed by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation yesterday in her media briefing together with her deputies. So we really think that more can still be done in terms of where diplomatic relations are concerned between the two countries.
In terms of that, you're somewhat, or the organization, the movement, is somewhat inspired by South Africa's democracy moving forward and its fight against anti-apartheid. What would BDS be doing globally to mobilize support?
I think in the last, over the last 10 years, in terms of what the BDS movement has been doing globally, and I think we're seeing kind of the byproducts, if you will, of what the global BDS movement has been doing in terms of conscientizing and raising awareness of Israel's policy of apartheid. You look at the black coffee incident, for example, there was kind of organic response to that from social media, and this is young young people on the ground organically responding to Black Coffee's decision to perform in Israel. But of course, there have been other celebrities in South Africa that have also gone to Israel, and really they've received great backlash from South Africans in general, ordinary people on the ground saying, why would you do that? Because the argument really is about saying, if you go to Israel, in extension legitimizing an apartheid state, but also you find yourself indirectly complicit to Israel's violations of international law.
And in terms of other countries that don't seem to be taking a stance on what is actually happening, what are you calling for with regards to that? In specific, possibly the US?
I think where the U.S. is concerned, I think it's a lost cause. In the same way, for example, during the struggle against apartheid, just at the doorstep of democracy, you still had countries that were clinging on to the Pretoria regime. Countries like Israel, ironically, that supported the apartheid government up until the end. I mean, one could expect the same of the U.S. The U.S. gives the Israeli regime, for example, more aid than any other country in the world in terms of aid for arms, for example. And the same kind of case we had where the Pretoria regime was concerned. Israel really was the last friend where the Pretoria regime was concerned. But the BDS global movement is really making significant impact. In terms of the government response, for example, European governments, the Norwegian government, the Dutch governments as well, are coming out and saying people are and affirming the right to do BDS and saying people have a right to embark and engage in this non-violent tactic that was also used to isolate South Africa because of its policy of apartheid. We've seen that this tactic can work. It's non-violent, rights-based approach movement. So it's a matter of also using, if governments of the world will not act, I think citizens have a responsibility as well, the groundswell of support. Just like, for example, during the struggle against apartheid, the US, for example, never supported the isolation campaigns. Ronald Reagan even said that, if anything, that will harm South Africans at the time. But the biggest divestment campaigns came from US campuses at the time. So if governments won't act, people have a responsibility in those countries to do something about it.
In terms of, people having responsibility, yesterday marches took place both in Cape Town as well as outside the US consulate in Johannesburg and Sandton. Just take us through your role there yesterday outside the consulate.
So the atmosphere, I think, was wonderful in terms of you seeing an outpouring, genuine, organic outpouring of South Africans coming out on the streets and pledging their solidarity with the Palestinian people. And for two significant reasons. The one is the one that I earlier raised regarding the Nakba Day, but also the significance of the move by the US government to take their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The international community and the United Nations itself does not recognize any sovereignty that Israel has over Jerusalem. And I think, citizens that were there on the streets in Cape Town, marching to Parliament as well, and those that were outside the US consulate, and there's a diverse group, both in religion but also in terms of race, that were outside of these areas, calling for a free Palestine and condemning the decision by the US government to make that move.
In terms of taking action against what's actually, taking place in Israel or along the Gaza border, what essentially can be done besides, downgrading consulates and embassies?
I mean, it's our assertion that Israel is allowed to thrive because of, the role of international community, but also allowing Israel to participate in forums, for example, in multilateral fora, be it medical associations, be it, for example, in FIFA. So there have been a number of campaigns internationally calling on, for example, the expulsion of the Israeli Football Association from FIFA, because in a way it's legitimizing an apartheid government. Calling on those within the creatives industry, for example, to not legitimize an apartheid government by either performing there or either, be it attending festivals that are there, even within academia as well, calling on academic institutions to not partner up with any Israeli academic institutions. And we're seeing victories in this case. The Tshwane University of Technology last year, one of the biggest universities in this country, adopted full academic and cultural boycotts against Israel, just in this country alone. And of course, the numbers are increasing internationally as well. But beyond, calling for sanctions and so on, there is a need, for example, to hold multinational companies accountable and for their involvement in the occupation, the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
Definitely. We thank you very much for your time this morning. That was BDS National Spokesperson Kwaraka Kana giving us a prelude around what's been happening around the Gaza border, as well as the support from the BDS movement in those over 50 Palestinians who lost their lives, unfortunately. Well, today we're asking our question of the day, and what do you make of the DA taking away Patricia de Lille's mayoral duties despite yesterday's High Court ruling that granted her interim relief to remain as mayor? You can send us your comments on at SABC Newsroom. We'll have a look at this and more after the break.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Our stories.
How do I begin?
Our lives. When all seems to fail, we will raise our voices a bit louder for our justice.
Well, I went into absolute shock. My whole body was shaky. I couldn't hold a phone, but there he was. I couldn't believe the nonchalant that they were still in the area 2 weeks later.
And in times when the justice system is not able to help us with our individual battles,
I'm willing to do anything. What are you doing? Nothing. Feeling sorry for yourself? No, it's not an option.
These are our stories on Cutting Edge Channel 404.
32 nations, 44 matches live on SABC1 and 19 SABC radio stations. SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
News at 9. We go beyond the headlines of the day and breaking news to bring you all the angles and in-depth analysis of stories that impact your life. We are on the ball with all economic stories. Our bureaus around the globe are ready to connect you to events as and when they happen. So join us every day at 9 to zoom in on the day's big stories.
This is your midday report. Good afternoon.
I will be faithful.
I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya.
Let's take a look at how African markets and currencies are performing now.
The central bankers say the success of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is just a bubble.
Breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for staying with Newsroom. Well, earlier today, FC Barcelona touched down at Ora Tambo International in Johannesburg, and they've moved to their hotel in Sandton ahead of tonight's Nelson Mandela centenary. Sundowns, those are some live visuals that are from their arrival hotel, where they're not going to be staying for too long, and all the stars are here. That's Gerard Piqué, and we saw Lionel Messi as well as Andres Iniesta getting onto the plane from Barcelona coming to South Africa. Mduduzi Ndlovu is at the hotel in Sandton. Let's cross over to him now and see what's been happening this morning. It's certainly been a very busy morning in Johannesburg. Mdu, good morning to you. What's the latest?
Good morning, Vela, and good morning, viewers of SABC Channel 404. As you see behind me, the players are coming in, players from Barcelona, and some of them are just on board the lift. If I can ask my cameraman to just pen to Piqué right there in the lift as we speak. The players have come in their numbers. All the stars from Barcelona are here, including Suarez is here. Your Lionel Messi is also here with us here at Sentin Sun Hotel, and the players and the hype at the entrance was so high, such that people were expecting these guys to arrive here, and then we're expecting and waiting for them, just making sure that they are making them happy and making sure that they appreciate their presence here in South Africa. I'm coming to you live, Valen, here at Sentin Sun in Johannesburg. They traveled from the airport to OR Tambo this morning by bus and with the escort to Sentin. And as we speak, they are just going to their hotel rooms as individuals. But we are just waiting for details if they are going to just move out to FNB Stadium just to view the stadium before the match that is coming up this evening. But as we speak right now, most of the players are just coming in one by one. But a group have just already taken into their hotel rooms, including we saw Suarez earlier on. We have him in our visuals, Suarez and Coutinho and other stars from Barcelona, Velen.
Do I understand that not only was there a number of Barcelona football fans at the hotel in Santon, but also many people coming out to welcome Barcelona as they touched down at OR Tambo International?
Yes, and we drove straight from the SABC straight to Sentin to just wait for them here, because already they had arrived at the airport, and as you can just maybe see from my pictures right now, even the management and the backroom staff are also arriving here at Sentin Sun. And a number of people, I can agree with you, Valen. We found a number of people downstairs here at the Sentin Hotel waiting, and then they are so in a jovial mood. They say they can't wait to go to the stadium this evening to watch this game between Barcelona and our own champions of the ABSA Premiership. That is Mamelodi Sundowns this evening at 6 o'clock, Valen. And the fans, they say all they are waiting for now is for the kickoff and just to see these stars that they always see on TV, to see them live at the FNB Stadium this evening, Valen.
And the big question mark was, of course, around Lionel Messi. You've mentioned some of the other stars that you have already seen. We saw Gerard Piqué live on our screens. We also saw Philip Coutinho. You've mentioned Luis Suarez. What about Lionel Messi?
Vele, as we speak, we've got Paulino just passing by now. Lionel Messi is here, I can confirm. Lionel Messi is in the building as we speak. And there are a number of people around him as we speak right now, just in front of my camera right now. If you can just zoom in there. And then everyone wants to see just a piece of him. Here is the man, the Leslie man, the Leslie magician, Lionel Messi just passing by. Hey, Messi. Yes, as we all see, he is here, and we can't wait to see him in the field of play as we speak. Valen, the young man, the Leslie magician, the world best footballer is here with us as we speak right here. And then Mr. Susan Zimande, if you can have a word with you, sir, please, from Mamelodi Sundowns. Please, just a moment, sir, just a word, for an official word. Here with me is an official from Mamelodi Sundowns, Mr. Susan Zimande and Motsepe Foundation. Sir, if you can briefly speak with us about the arrival of FC Barcelona this morning.
I think Mr. Motsepe had an intention to give the people of South Africa something to celebrate, to help them celebrate the centenary of former state president Mr. Nelson Mandela, Dr. Nelson Mandela, in bringing Barcelona here. I think that has fulfilled. Barcelona is here, as you can see, and the team is here in its entirety. It's a full Barcelona team, including the likes of Iniesta, Messi, Dembele, Mtiti, and I think Mr. Motsepe wanted this to be nothing but the best for the people of South Africa, and I think that's what you're seeing.
Are we going to see Barcelona maybe taking to the field earlier than before the match starts, maybe early this afternoon or early this morning?
No, they're going to be coming through purely at match time, the match call time. They're going to be doing their warm-up as per normal, and then after the warm-up, of course, they'll be playing the game against Mamelodi Sundowns.
By any chance, are you going to maybe grant us a chance just to speak with maybe an official or one player from Barcelona as they've already arrived in South Africa?
I think it's very hectic. They've just arrived, as you see, and I think it will roll itself out in the next few hours, and we will try and figure out what's what.
That is Mr. Nzimande from Motsepe Foundation. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. As you can see, Valen, the hype is so high here at Sentin Sun Hotel. As the players have come in, we've saw one the best player currently. The currently a best player in the world, the Leslie magician Lionel Messi. We all saw him arriving here at the Sentin Sun Hotel. Just look behind me. Look at these people here who are have just come here just to see, witness for themselves the arrival of these stars from La Liga, the champions of La Liga, the champions of the 2017-2018 La Liga, the champions of Spain. These are some of the players. Some of them were here during the FIFA World Cup 2010, including one Iniesta. That is the star that most of the people will like to see in the field of play again. We'll remember that Iniesta is the very same player who scored that solitary goal that made Spain the champions of the 2010 FIFA World Cup here in South Africa at the magnificent FNB Stadium, which was called Soccer City then because of some rules of FIFA back then. But otherwise, it is FNB Stadium, and Iniesta is in the country. We all know that Iniesta is calling it quits from Barcelona this season, as he is going to play his trade in Asia as from next season. But the hype is so high. The fans have come out in their numbers. The thing is, the management here at Sentin Sun, they are not allowing a lot of people to come through inside the hotel. Otherwise, there are a number of people waiting. I can tell you that a number of people are waiting downstairs and outside the Sentin Sun Hotel, just waiting, just to have a glimpse of these stars from Barcelona, because we all know that Barcelona is one team that is just full of stars, and stars that we always see in Champions League, and stars that we always see playing in La Liga, and they are current champions of the 2017-2018 La Liga. That is Barcelona, who just missed out on being the invisible team this season. They lost their last match. We all know that they lost their last match last Sunday against Levante. What a match that was. They lost that match 5-4. That was the final score. That was the only loss that Barcelona suffered in La Liga this season. I can confirm to you that after 38 matches, Barcelona only lost one match after a round of 38 matches. That I can tell you, Valen. The hype is still high, and then people are still waiting just to see a glimpse of other players that can come up. Even the staff of here, Sentin Sun staff, you can see they are waiting in anticipation. They want to see the stars. Everyone is waiting to see the stars, including this management and the staff members from here at Sentin Sun. All people are happy. They are all happy to see Barcelona gracing this place, gracing Johannesburg, gracing South Africa in particular. And we are seeing right now, Gerard Piqué is coming out. He might just come just past us. We are not sure if he would like to speak with us or not, but we'll try and just grab our chance. Maybe we will have just a moment with him. We are just seeing him coming out of the lift. He should be coming out from this direction any time from now. I'm not sure if they will allow him or if he will allow us to just have a word with him. But we will be glad to have a word with him. We can't wait. We just want the best. Oh, he's just moved back to the lift, and that is a miss from us. But we were just hoping that we can maybe steal a moment or two with him, just maybe without even permission from the officials. Otherwise, the hype is so high, even the congestion of local journals. We are seeing journals from FC Barcelona who are traveling with the team. They are also here with the team. They can't wait for this evening. Everyone can't wait for this evening, Valen. Everyone is happy, and everyone is looking forward to the game that will take place this evening at the FNB Stadium, the magnificent FNB Stadium that is the mecca of South African football. Valen.
Thank you very much, Mduduzi. And it is a whirlwind tour for Barcelona. Following the match this evening against Mamelodi Sundowns at the FNB Stadium, the team are going to be getting on a plane and returning to Spain, as they do have one more match left in the 2017-2018 La Liga season. So thank you very much, Mdu, for that comprehensive crossing. We got to see a number of the Barcelona stars, as well as a four-time Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi. We can see there They're in the country, and they're not actually going to be taking part in a training session before the match. They're just going to get to the FNB Stadium, that being confirmed by Sizwe Nzimande of the Patrice Motsepe Foundation. They're just going to be going to warm up ahead of the game before the 6:15 kickoff here in Johannesburg. Okay, it's time now to cross over to Azwi. He's standing by with the weather.
Thanks very much and warm welcome. Well, KwaZulu-Natal currently flooded. In Mandini, we are currently having floods. So if you are in those regions, please be very careful and drive extremely cautious. Do not cross a flooded stream and do not attempt to drive on a flooded road. 80% chance of thunder showers forecast, and we are expecting lots of rainfall in those areas. For most parts of Africa, we're still seeing lots of moisture over the central interior, some of it going to South Africa and coming in from the polar regions, resulting to partly cloudy skies and up to 80% chance of thunder showers expected in KwaZulu-Natal for today, with the warning of heavy rains over the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal going to the interior. Otherwise, 60% chance of showers forecast going to isolated in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and some parts of Limpopo. Over the western parts, we do have conditions that are extremely conducive for felt fires for today over the western parts of Western Cape and the Northern Cape. So please do take note of that and do not start any unnecessary fires tomorrow. We're just seeing isolated showers over KwaZulu-Natal to some parts of Swaziland and Mpumalanga. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies and cooler conditions still expected over most parts of South Africa. Let's take a look at your temperatures, where we are expecting a maximum of 18 in Pretoria for today, 19 in Bloemfontein, and 27 over the city of Cape Town. Uppington at 25, 26 for Bloemfontein. Polokwane, a maximum of 19 degrees. Partly cloudy skies in Zimbabwe, but Harare, isolated showers can be expected. You can see temperatures in the low 20s. This is still an effect from that cut-off low that we are experiencing here in South Africa and bringing in lots of rainfall in KwaZulu-Natal. A maximum of 25 in Van Hook, and sunny skies expected. Just partly cloudy skies and fog patches expected in Fiaranso at a maximum of 23 degrees. Over the central interior, still expecting a whole lot of activity. Thunder showers to thunderstorms forecast. That's all. Ndao yadu.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Hello, I'm Simpiwe Ngongwane, and as usual, I'm in the company of the pearl of the show.
And yes, I'm Pearl Shongwe, and this is the weekend edition of Morning Live,
where we bring you news stories, making headlines, weather updates, and the latest in the world of sports.
Every weekend on Saturday and Sunday mornings, we bring you, our viewer, vibrant, exciting, informative current stories here on the SABC News Channel 404.
And we also put a spotlight on creative art stories, book reviews, poetry, and various topical stories. We also bring you live outside broadcast as well as live music performances.
All of this every weekend between 6 and 9
here on the SABC News Channel 404.
News at 9. We go beyond the headlines of the day and breaking news to bring you all the angles and in-depth analysis of stories that impact your life. We are on the ball with all economic stories. Our bureaus around the globe are ready to connect you to events as and when they happen. So join us every day at 9 to zoom in on the day's big stories.
Union Nahawa will stage a march in the northwest capital Mahikeng, demanding action on the crisis in the province. The City of Cape Town Mayoral Committee member and DA Deputy Caucus leader JP Smith says reinstalled Mayor Patricia de Lille is not fit for office. Convicted murderer Christopher Paniatu will today apply for leave to appeal against his conviction and sentence in the Port Elizabeth High Court in the Eastern Cape.
And Spanish La Liga champions touchdown in Johannesburg for the international club friendly against ABSA Premiership champions Mamelodi Sundowns.
Hello and welcome to SABC Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankee. So thank you very much for joining us. Coming up this hour, we continue to give you updates on the Nahawu strike. It is set to start just past 10 a.m. this morning. Also, all those updates as Barcelona touchdown here in South Africa. I'm not alone. Velen Kirtley is standing by. Very good morning to you, Velen. Very exciting couple of moments for our reporter on the ground as we saw the Barcelona team make their way into the hotel.
Can you just imagine what those men are going to be like at the stadium, seeing Lionel Messi actually come onto the football pitch? When it comes to footballing demigods, it doesn't get better than Lionel Messi for so many. Thank you, Shante. Good to be with you on this Wednesday morning, and good to be in your company. I'll be bringing you up to speed with what's happening in your sports world, because not only is Barcelona in South Africa, but also we've got the Ajax Cape Town team that are applying for an urgent interdict to stop the promotion relegation playoffs from actually getting underway at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The latest on that a little bit later on here on Newsroom. First, though, back to Shante for your top news story.
Welcome to SABC's Newsroom. Well, this morning, Nahawu is set to embark on that mass action strike in the northwest. We do have a reporter on the ground, Selwane Kakao, who is at the Wanchiwa Stadium. We do know that a number of Nahawu members have also gathered ahead of their march in the northwest legislature this morning. A very good morning to you, Selwane. Just take us through some of the details that we're expecting as we have a look at some of the build-up to this morning's march.
Good morning again, Shante. Yes, we are coming live to you once more now from Wanchiwa Stadium here in Mahikeng, where we are expecting the streets of this town to be painted red today as Nahawu will be marching. We understand that the issues are pretty much still the same issues that we saw coming up in the last few weeks as Nahawu was on strike. You'd remember that in the spotlight was the Department of Health, where Nahawu was saying that the department cannot cope or continue to function in that state where there is a shortage of resources, shortage of staff workers, shortage of medication, and they were also saying that there is so much corruption crippling that particular department. But it does not end there. They were saying also that corruption is actually crippling the entire Northwest province, and Nahawu once more has taken this day to make its demands heard. We're saying earlier on when we're speaking to the General Secretary of Nahawu, Mr. Zola Sapeta, he was saying to us that in as much as they do welcome this initiative or the efforts of the interministerial task team that has been appointed to look into issues that are crippling the Northwest government, they also are in the view or of the view that they feel that serious issues are being glossed over, and they would like the interministerial task team to look into more issues and not only focus on the Department of Health, but also other departments of government, including social development, public works, and the province, the office of the Premier in the Northwest, office of Premier Supra Mahumapelo. So right now, we are seeing some members of Nahawu starting to arrive in their numbers right now. We also know that we've been told to expect for this march to be quite large in number, as Nahawu has mobilized members from different provinces, 5 provinces, which include the Free State, Northern Cape, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. We also know that ANC affiliates, including SACP, Sanko, Action for another one, Treatment for Action. They're also going to be part of this march, and we're also expecting to see the person who will be receiving this memorandum later on today that they will be handing over, being the Minister in the Presidency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, as she is the person who is leading the task team. Shante?
Indeed, Silvana, with regards to the other government officials that might be in attendance today, can you give us any information on that and possibly any statements that the Northwest Legislature has given with regards to this morning's march?
Well, with regards to the officials who will be attending the march on behalf of government, we haven't yet gotten an indication on that. The indication that we have received so far is that we can expect for the memorandum that will be handed over by Nehawu to be received by the Minister in the Presidency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini, like I just mentioned now. And you would, of course, recall that she is leading this interministerial task team. Another thing that we can expect today is that she will be making a presentation on the work that the interministerial task team has been doing so far. You'd recall that last week President Cyril Ramaphosa wrote a letter to chairperson of the NCOP, Methandi Mudise, making a recommendation that the Northwest Provincial Government be placed under administration and not only the Department of Health. So we are expecting later on today to hear Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma making that presentation about the findings that the interministerial task team has done so far with the work that it has been doing on the ground here in the Northwest, Shante.
You've spoken to a representative from Nehawu. Have you been able to speak to some of the members on the ground as to hear some of their sentiments on why they're in support of the march that's taking place this morning?
Yes, indeed, we have managed to speak to some of them, just the ordinary members of Nehawu who will be taking part in this march. We wanted to find out from them why they feel it's important for them to be part of this march and support this call. And they are saying that the issues are still clear. The issues, in fact, have not changed. The issues are that they want change of leadership. They want better working conditions within the Department of Health where they work, and also at social development. We've also been hearing from members on the ground saying that, because of the ongoing corruption allegations, we are not seeing posts or vacancies being made available for people to get job opportunities in some departments here in the province. And those are just some of their concerns. They're also saying that corruption is getting in the way of them in the Northwest seeing a lot of developments in this province. So those are just some of the issues that are coming out from people on the ground. They have not changed much. They still go to the issues that we saw from previous weeks, where they've been calling for a lot of change and urgent intervention with regards to what is happening here in this province, Shante.
So, Rana, we do know, having a look at the build-up to this morning's march from Nehawu, they were saying that they would want to stage and are threatening a shutdown in Mahikeng. As you stand on the ground this morning, in terms of the numbers that we're actually seeing that have turned out, is that a possibility of Mahikeng being shut down today?
Well, with regards to the shutdown or the stay away, when we spoke to Nehawu, they were actually saying that after handing over the memorandum to Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, they will give only 24 hours for their demands to be met or to be responded to. As long as they can get a response from government within 24 hours, then they will wait for steps to be taken with regards to their demands. But if they do not get a response within 24 hours after submitting that memorandum or handing over that memorandum later on today, we can expect then to see a total shutdown or stay away in the province, which will start on Friday and as well as on Monday. But with regards to today being a shutdown, right now it's still a little bit too early to tell whether it will be that situation, as people have only really started to arrive around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's not yet quite a large number of people yet, but as I mentioned, remember that we are going to see members of Nehawu coming down here from not only across the northwest but also 5 other provinces which are named earlier on. They include the Free State, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo and Gauteng. And then we're also seeing other alliances of the ANC, SANCO, Treatment Action Campaign, as well as the SACP to be part of this march. So we've been told really to expect quite a large number of people, but whether or not that turnout will be as expected, whether a lot of people will attend as expected, remains to be seen, but we'll still be on the ground to update you on that, Shantae.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Silwane Kakao, for SABC News in the Northwest, as Nahawu is set to hand over its memorandum of demands this morning with regards to issues around provincial legislatures as well as the office of the Premier in the Northwest. We will be keeping you updated on that story. Some other news, the EFF has again threatened to go to the courts if government does not overrule a decision by Northwest Premier Supra Mahmudpelo to go on leave and appoint Wendy Nelson as acting Premier. Well, last week, the embattled leader reneged on his earlier decision to resign from office amid accusations of corruption and maladministration, which have led to the collapse of health and other services in the province. EFF leader Julius Malema says they'll be keenly watching the feedback of the task team. Patricia de Lille is expected back in her mayoral office in Cape Town this morning. This is after the High Court yesterday ruled in her favour, leading a way for her to stay in office pending a final ruling, which is set to take place next week. Well, it relates to her urgent application to challenge the DA's decision to terminate her membership from the party and subsequently removal as mayor. Well, yesterday, Judge Patrick Gamble ruled that the cessation of her membership of the DA be suspended until her urgent interdict against the party's decision is heard on the 25th of May. Well, the DA last week terminated her membership from the party following a radio interview during which she said she would resign as soon as she had cleared her name. De Lille says she is ready to put her differences with the DA aside to focus on the interests of the citizens of Cape Town first. But mayoral committee member JP Smith insists that the mayor is not fit to keep her position. His colleague Xanthia Limburg earlier told Morning Live that the DA caucus has lost faith in de Lille.
It means that the mayor has no authority to make decisions. All decisions will take place in a collective fashion through the mayoral committee as well as through the DA caucus at the City of Cape Town. Well, I think so much water is under the bridge, and the Democratic believes that Mr. Lowell must still go. The people within her caucus, and this is a diverse group of people, have lost confidence in the mayor on 2 occasions already, based on a string of major and serious concerns. And the Democratic Alliance has built up a strong and credible track record of offering a government of transparency, and honesty and clean governance. And we believe that the mayor's return to office puts this at jeopardy, and we will continue to strive for a clean administration and keep corruption out. And therefore, we do not believe that the mayor's return to office is in the interest of the people of Cape Town.
The South African Jewish Board of Deputies has requested a meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa to discuss the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This in the wake of South Africa's decision to withdraw its ambassador to Israel following the killing of more than 50 Palestinians by Israeli forces during a protest along the Gaza border. Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, BDS, is a Palestinian-led movement operating around the world for freedom, justice and equality. BDS upholds the simple principle that Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as the rest of humanity. 11 years since its launch, BDS is having a major impact and is effectively challenging international support for Israeli apartheid and settler colonialism. Well, earlier, we spoke to BDS national spokesperson Kwarakakana.
The Palestinians embarked on what they call the Great Return March, beginning of April. It's a 6 weeks kind of demonstration leading up to the 15th of May, which is called the Nakba Day, commemorating a day in which Palestinians were ethnically and systematically cleansed from their homes in 1948, making way for the creation of the modern state of Israel. And since that demonstration started 6 weeks ago, we've seen over 11,000 people that have been wounded, over 100 people that have been killed by the Israeli regime, and just on Monday alone, over 50 people that have been killed just within a 24-hour period. Israel, like what I think Zizi Gwada was saying in the insert, there is a terrorist regime, and it's simply unacceptable the taking of life at that scale.
Should President Cyril Ramaphosa meet with the South African Jewish Board to discuss what's been happening?
I mean, the presidency or government itself has right to meet. I mean, South African citizens themselves can request with various government officials or representatives, and that is their right. They can afford them that space. But as far as BDS South Africa is concerned, I think with the withdrawal of the ambassador, our South African ambassador to Israel, welcome that position, but we still feel very strongly that more can be done. For example, when you look at the 54th ANC conference resolution that talks about the downgrading of the South African embassy in Israel, it's one step further that the South African government could take. And these were sentiments also expressed by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation yesterday in her media briefing together with her deputies. So we really think that more can still be done in terms of where diplomatic relations are concerned between the two countries.
In terms of that, you know, you're somewhat, or the organization, the movement, is somewhat inspired by South Africa's democracy moving forward and its fight against anti-apartheid. What would BDS be doing globally to mobilize support?
I think in the last, over the last 10 years, in terms of what the BDS movement has been doing globally, and I think we're seeing kind of the byproducts, if you will, of what the global BDS movement has been doing in terms of conscientizing and raising awareness of Israel's policy of apartheid. You look at the black coffee incident, for example, there was kind of organic response to that from social media, and this is young people on the ground organically responding to Black Coffee's decision to perform in Israel. But of course, there have been other celebrities in South Africa that have also gone to Israel, and really they've received great backlash from South Africans in general, ordinary people on the ground saying, why would you do that? Because the argument really is about saying, if you go to Israel, in extension you're legitimizing an apartheid state, but also you find yourself indirectly complicit to Israel's violations of international law.
And in terms of other countries that don't seem to be taking a stance on what is actually happening, what are you calling for with regards to that? In specific, possibly the US?
I think where the US is concerned, I think it's a lost cause. In the same way, for example, during the struggle against apartheid, just at the doorstep of democracy, you still had countries that were clinging on to the Pretoria regime. Countries like Israel, ironically, that supported the apartheid government up until the end. I mean, one could expect the same of the US. The US gives the Israeli regime, for example, more aid than any other country in the world in terms of aid for arms, for example. And the same kind of case we had where the Pretoria regime was concerned. Israel really was the last friend where the Pretoria regime was concerned. But the BDS global movement is really making significant impact in terms of the government response. For example, European governments, the Norwegian government, the Dutch governments as well, are coming out and saying people are and affirming the right to do BDS and saying people have a right to embark and engage in this non-violent tactic that was also used to isolate South Africa because of its policy of apartheid. We've seen that this tactic can work. It's non-violent, rights-based approach movement. So it's a matter of also using, if governments of the world will not act, I think citizens have a responsibility as well. You know, the groundswell of support. Just like, for example, during the struggle against apartheid, the US, for example, never supported the isolation campaigns. Ronald Reagan even said that, if anything, that will harm South Africans at the time. But the biggest divestment campaigns came from US campuses at the time. So if governments won't act, people have a responsibility in those countries to do something about it.
In terms of, you know, people having responsibility, yesterday marches took place both in Cape Town as well as outside the US consulate in Johannesburg and Sandton. Just take us through your role there yesterday outside the consulate.
So the atmosphere, I think, was wonderful in terms of you seeing an outpouring, genuine, organic outpouring of South Africans coming out on the streets and pledging their solidarity with the Palestinian people. And for two significant reasons. The one is the one that I earlier raised regarding the Nakba Day, but also the significance of the move by the U.S. government to take the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The international community and the United Nations itself does not recognize any sovereignty that Israel has over Jerusalem. And I think, citizens that were there on the streets in Cape Town, marching to Parliament as well, and those that were outside the U.S. consulate, and there's a diverse group, both in religion, but also in terms of race, that were outside of these areas, calling for a free Palestine and condemning the decision by the U.S. government to make that move.
In terms of taking action against what's actually, taking place in Israel or along the Gaza border, what essentially can be done besides, downgrading consulates and embassies?
I mean, it's our assertion that Israel is allowed to thrive because of, the role of international community, but also allowing Israel to participate in forums, for example, in multilateral fora, be it medical associations, be it, for example, in FIFA. So there have been a number of campaigns internationally calling on, for example, the expulsion of the Israeli Football Association from FIFA, because in a way it's legitimizing an apartheid government. Calling on those within the creatives industry, for example, to not legitimize an apartheid government by either performing there or either, be it attending festivals that are there, even within academia as well, calling on academic institutions to not partner up with any Israeli academic institutions. And we're seeing victories in this case. The Tshwane University of Technology last year, one of the biggest universities in this country, adopted full academic and cultural boycotts against Israel, just in this country alone. And of course, the numbers are increasing internationally as well. But beyond, calling for sanctions and so on, there is a need, for example, to hold multinational companies accountable and for their involvement in the occupation, the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
Well, this morning we're asking on our question of the day, do you think that the DA should reinstate Patricia de Lille's mayoral duties following yesterday's court ruling? Let's have a look at some of your comments. You do know that JP Smith has said that the DA caucus does not see Patricia de Lille to be fit to be mayor in office. Let's have a look at some of your tweets that have been coming in. Well, can we just get this behind us already? So much attention has been diverted from the real issues that we face in Cape Town. Of course, they're making reference to the buses as well as the transport system in Cape Town, the woes there. Lachasa says, I have withdrawn my vote from the DA. The DA doesn't learn or listen masses or respect our court of law. My own liberator, or _TL, says the same DA that have always said that they have the utmost respect for the judiciary is now disobeying court orders. The leadership is so desperate to get rid of Auntie Pat. Nazim says the DA is undermining the High Court decision. Patricia must continue her work. Yeah, very interesting views coming in there on that. Our poll question, of course, around the sporting highlight, a sporting event that is taking place today with that friendly between Sundowns and Barcelona. Poll, we're asking, can Sundowns beat Barcelona? Well, 56% of you not so optimistic in South Africans saying no. 44% of you are vying behind the Brazilians and think yes. Over 1,800 votes coming in. Let's have a look at some of your tweets and comments possibly behind that. Well, Michael says Barca were beaten 5-4 over the weekend by Levante. So I don't know which unbeaten side you're talking about. Nazim says, yes, they can do it. Barcelona is just a name. Very patriotic view coming in from Nazim Prudpom this morning behind the voice. Mystic Man Almalachi says, I guess this is a game of football. 11 men against 11 men. Anything is possible. Very optimistic South Africans upon that friendly between Sundowns and Barcelona. Thank you very much for participating in both our question and our poll. Let's move on to our Facebook page this morning on @SABC Newsroom Online. Well, firstly today, Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu says he is deeply distressed and brokenhearted by the massacre perpetrated by the state of Israel in Gaza. And then also we see at least 100 people have been kidnapped along a road in northern Nigeria in the past couple of days. Officials, witnesses And relatives of the abducted told Reuters this on Tuesday. This, of course, underscoring the insecurity still afflicting parts of the country. And finally, North Korea threatened to cancel the forthcoming summit between leader Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump if Washington seeks to push Pyongyang into unilaterally giving up its nuclear arsenal. You can find us on Facebook, SABC News Facebook page, as well as our website. Let's have a look now at some other news making headlines front page and centre on the African continent. We'll start off in South Africa. The Citizen is reporting that the Democratic Alliance suffered a double blow to the gut yesterday with the defeat of their motion of no confidence against Gauteng Premier David Makhura and the Western Cape High Court ruling that Patricia de Lille return to the position of Cape Town Mayor if ousted from last week. In Zimbabwe, the Chronicle says nurses on Monday received lump sum payments of up to $5,000 from government as payment of outstanding allowances. And further up west in Kenya, the Daily Nation reports records of some of the entities believed to have been fraudulently paid 9 billion shilling from the National Youth Service are incomplete or missing from the company registry. And still coming up, President Cyril Ramaphosa has arrived in Geneva in Switzerland to co-chair the Global Commission on the Future of Work. This and more after the break.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
An exciting opportunity and an absolute must for those with the spirit of adventure is a Kruger Park night game drive.
The railway station itself is already a sight to behold and offers gracious colonial-style buildings and serves as the departure and arrival point for all train journeys.
I wanted to dress with my best color. Being awarded to do the Superintendent Pavilion is the highest commission in my career. And I wanted just to come and show me with my best clothes, and that is blue.
Catch Trains Travel every Sunday from 12 to 1 for all the global travel and leisure trends.
Well, President Ramaphosa will co-chair the International Labour Organization's Commission with Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven. UN Women's Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka weighs in on the Sudanese government's decision to sentence a woman to death for killing her husband for trying to rape her. The protesters marched in Nairobi to support a Kenyan woman who was forced to breastfeed her child in the toilet of a city restaurant because the management thought she was being offensive. Your lead story at the half hour, UN Women's Executive Director Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka has spoken out about the Sudan government's death sentence against a woman who killed her husband as he tried to rape her. 19-year-old Noura Hussein, who was forced into marriage by her family at the age of 16, faces death by hanging after a Sharia court found her guilty of premeditated murder for stabbing her husband. Well, various United Nations agencies and rights groups are urging Khartoum to grant her clemency.
Sure that this girl does not die, that she is released, because this is a child who was forced to marry against her will. She appealed to her parents. She was sent back to the same man that she was running away from. All she ever wanted was to be a school teacher. The Sudanese government is a partner with us in fighting violence against women. Last year, during the 16 days of activism, we were working with them. We are calling for them to honor the promises that we've made together to the girls of the world. UNFPA, UNICEF, ourselves, many NGOs have shown that it is horrible to force children to marry as early as 16, some of them 10, because it just kills the nation. It kills the girl. It is a violation of their right.
Well, Global Union says the fight against inequality in the labour market should be at the centre of discussion at the Global Commission on the Future of Work. The union is having its third meeting to compile a report on how traditional workforce is impacted by the fourth industrial revolution and climate change. Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa co-chairing the meeting at the International Labour Organization in Geneva in Switzerland. Aljan Sampe is there and spoke to Global Union's Philip Jennings on inequality and whether the minimum wage could be an answer.
Is kicking off this morning, and as we've been indicating, that it will be the first time that we have President Cyril Ramaphosa, who's been appointed the co-chair of the Global Commission, which is looking into the future of work, what it means, quite a number of issues that are set to be raised during this meeting, and as we've been indicating that that report will be tabled next year and coincide, of course, with the centenary of the ILO. Right now, I'm joined by Philip Jennings, who is the head of Uni Global. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's just quickly speak about some of the fundamental issues that Labour has been raising when it comes to the issue around the future of work.
What we've tried to do is to put the future of work at the centre of the conversation about the digital revolution which is sweeping the world. To put the future of work at the centre of the conversation about globalization. This is about jobs, this is about incomes, this is about skills, and this is about equipping the future generation with the skills and with the opportunities that they can enjoy decent work. This is putting work at the centre of the conversation about all those changes that are taking place in the world today.
And many, when we speak about technological advances, they start having the conversation around job security as well.
The analysis that has been done by the Commission basically says we're not going to see the end of work, but we're going to see a huge transformation in the world of work. Therefore, there is a responsibility on government and on employers and on society at large to ensure that working people have the skills and have the capacity to work with the technology and to also to shape the future direction of the technological revolution that we're seeing. Job security is a huge concern, because if we use the old business model that you hire and you fire, this is not going to work in the new circumstance. Business will need people with skills. They have to invest in their people. The last option should be dismissal. We have to give a sense of security. We have to give a sense to people that they're being accompanied in this change, and that employers will be thinking not just of their bottom line interests, but how they can improve their bottom line by investing in human capital. One of the things that the Commission has found is that we are under-investing in people, and therefore the next growth model should be based around investing in people. Giving them the skills, giving them the opportunities to have those skills, and which will guarantee them an income and guarantee them a job. Massive transformation, but we're not without answers.
Yeah. And if you look at the inception report of the Global Commission on the Future of Work, it also speaks about job security, but how they find that some workers value job security more than a higher income, for instance, where at the same time you've got what seems to be a double whammy, where you have the developmental goals that are set out in terms of making sure that you have full employment and people are paid their worth.
The double whammy that we can face and we can deliver is full employment with decent wages. We are not going to see the end of work here. We're going to see the transformation of work. And we can't abandon people. We can't give people the sense that no one's looking out for them, that no one is caring for them, and that we have to say that there has to be, the bottom line for people is that there's a sense of income security. And you get income security through collective bargaining. You get income security through a social protection floor. You get a sense of job security by having access to education, access to the development of skills. And also the business leaders of today, stop those corrupt practices, pay your taxes, and have a new sense of responsibility towards your people. This is where growth is going to come from. Your consumers are suffering. Your consumers out there, the working people, are suffering. Why? Because the share of wages in the wealth produced is in massive decline. South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world. If you could lift that wage share up through collective bargaining, through labour market institutions, it will give you another growth spurt. It's time for the suffering of the working people to end. We have opportunities, we have policies. We can do this. This Future of Work Commission is crucial because we're putting the world of people, the world of work, the importance of work right bang in the middle of the political and economic agenda, instead of being a passenger where it's been for so long.
And speaking about South Africa and the inequality in South Africa, one of the answers that has been given, actually that's something that has been pioneered by the President of South Africa while still being the deputy, is the minimum wage, which was set to be implemented on Workers' Day. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Do you think that that is an answer to dealing with the issue of inequality?
It's really, really important, because what this commission has shown is that our labour markets are becoming more polarised. We are seeing the hollowing out of all those middle-class jobs, those professional jobs, and there's a gravitation towards the higher skill end, and then a growing workforce which is kind of falling through labour market controls, where there may be no collective agreements in place. So what you have to do is to try to think of the measures where you can guarantee a standard of living for everybody, where the good employer that is doing the right thing is not penalised because somebody down the street, a labour broker enterprise, is undercutting wages, undercutting collective agreements. The minimum wage is an answer which is being pursued in many, many countries. There are those that fix it through collective agreements, through industry standards, and there are others which is legislated. What we're saying is we're thinking of all the South Africans, and we're thinking of all of the people, and based on the realization that the structure of our labour force is changing, and therefore, for the good of all, you need a basic standard and a basic level of wages and a basic levels of income to enjoy a certain standard of living.
What do you then say to critics, especially from the employer side, to make the argument that this means that labour is becoming more expensive and they might have to opt for automation, for instance?
Wake up to the realities. We have economies which are driven by consumption. 70% of the growth registered and economic activity registered is to do with consumption. If working people don't have a floor of wages which is fair, which provides a decent standard of living, everybody suffers. This is an old lament of the business community. What they should be saying is, we are ready to invest in our people, and we want a decent standard of living, not just for the shareholders and for the people that are running the business, but for all. We're thinking of ways of how we can help the business community invest in people. So that we're looking at the tax systems that are employed around the world, and is there a way of encouraging investment in human capital and getting tax relief as a result of the investment that you make in training and reskilling? Now, perhaps that might be attractive. I think it would be attractive to the business community. But that's an old song, and we're tired of that old song. We have to give a sense of hope. We have to give a sense that we can deliver improvements in standards of living. And so the business community, look, they've had it good these last years. When you look at the share of profits and when you look at the share of dividends that are going to business and the private sector, we haven't seen this imbalance for more than a generation. Profits are being made, returns are being made, but are they being invested in people? Are they being invested in the technology? We're not opposed to the technology as a labour movement. We want to see investment in the technology to make the businesses competitive, but please don't talk about a minimum wage as wrecking a business plan. This is an old song, and we're tired of it.
Just in closing, speaking about these developmental goals, what do you think some of the recommendations that this commission should take up should be to deal with this issue around inequality?
Now, the world has decided with the Sustainable Development Goals. I know it's all a bit UN jargony, but this world has said in the next 10 years that we're going to eliminate extreme poverty, that we are going to eliminate child labor, where there are 150 million kids at work. We're going to eliminate slave labor, where there are 40 million people in conditions of slave and bonded labor. So the world has decided to do this. This commission also has to deliver on those, on the dreams to eliminate this level of inequality. Africa, so important. The population's going to double. You're going to have the youngest workforce. 1 in 4 of all the young workers in the world are going to be Africa. So therefore, what we have to do is to ensure that this commission says infrastructure development, good business policies, ending corruption, pay your taxes, and making sure that everybody is connected. We have this globalized labor market taking place now, but we have 50% of the population of the world who are not connected. I mean, for people to get connected in Africa can sometimes take up to their month's wages. To be connected for 1 year cost them 10% of their salary. This is not good enough. The world has to connect Africa. The world has to connect all the young people in Africa. Look, I'm a union guy, but I'm quite happy to see young Africans setting up their own businesses, having that sense of a spirit that they can do things, that the governments are on their side, and that they, when they need the skills and the workforce to help them, that we have those in place. Africa is the future of this global economy. It is the future labor force. Let's get the infrastructure in place that Africa can benefit from this digital revolution. You can make massive leap forward. You're not going to go through the industrial revolution that many of the industrialized nations went through. You can make this leap forward, but it makes commitment, it needs desire, it needs political will, and I'm sure this is a message that Cyril Ramaphosa will be bringing to this commission in the important role that he's now playing.
Do you perhaps think that one of the answers could be something that has been mooted by Thomas Piketty, for instance, that on the boards of companies you must have unions represented. They must have members who sit on the board of companies. Could that be an answer?
I think there's a question of voice here. You struggled and won the campaign against apartheid in your nation. You made a freedom declaration in the country in Kliptown in 1955, which said the people must govern. Now, this always rings in my mind and in my ears. What is the role of people, not just in terms of their enfranchisement to vote and to have the right to vote? What is the voice of people in the running of business? Now, for too long, we've been shut out of these decisions. For too long, we have not had the ability to express our opinions about business plans. In a number of countries, there has been a long-standing arrangement where there are workers on the boards who are properly elected. There are workers in supervisory boards. We have kind of works councils in place, in addition to collective agreements. We're in a very dynamic period. We're in a revolutionary period in the world of work. Therefore, you have to work with your workforce, enfranchise your workforce. And you can also say the workforce must also have their role in the governance of the business. Therefore, embrace the people. Embrace the knowledge that they bring. I mean, we deal with large multinational companies. We have global agreements with companies covering millions of workers. And therefore, what we have seen, when you enfranchise people, you're going to run a better business and your bottom line is going to improve. So, the people must govern. That was the Kliptown statement in 1955. It's still valid today. Give people a voice in the place of work. Then you have accountability, transparency, and you're getting another voice. Don't listen to McKinsey every day and all these management consultants that you're paying a high price for. If you want to improve your business, involve those working people, treat them with respect, and give them a voice.
Philip Jennings, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it from Philip Jennings. Quite a number of issues that he's raised there and some of the things that we need to look into and probably some of the things that will be discussed this morning throughout the day. And of course, later on, we'll be speaking to the co-chairs, the two co-chairs, including President Cyril Ramaphosa, about the outcomes of this meeting that will be taking place. But as I've indicated before, that the report itself, the report will only be tabled next year, which will coincide with the centenary celebration of the ILO. It's back to you in studio.
Thanks to Eldrin. Let's bring you that sports news now. Ajax Cape Town are back in court to stop the promotion relegation playoffs from commencing today. This after the Cape side was found guilty of fielding Zimbabwean international striker Tendai Ndoro illegitimately. Ajax forfeit 3 matches and are now automatically relegated from the Premier Soccer League, while Platinum Stars will contest in the playoffs.
The decision by the process of arbitration has all sorts of ramifications as far as the ABSA Premiership log is concerned. After being awarded the 3 points from the Ajax game, Platinum Stars will now finish 15th with 27 points, while Polokwane City moved to 12th. They were awarded a further 2 points and now have 36 points. Talking point is SuperSport United's gain and Amazulu's loss. Amazulu will lose their top 8 spot after SuperSport, who finished on 36 points, were awarded 3 extra points. That SuperSport move up from 11th place to 7th on the log, with Amazulu automatically dropping to 9th spot. The matter could be far from over. Ajax, who have been to the Johannesburg High Court several times before, are seeking legal opinion on the matter. The Urban Warriors are seeking an urgent interdict at the Johannesburg High Court to stop the playoffs from taking place. Sfeso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, SABC News sport reporter Lebogang Dube is at the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg for the urgent interdict application being applied for by Ajax Cape Town to stop those playoffs from commencing at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Let's cross over to him now. I think we do have him on the line. Good morning, Lebo. Can you give us the latest on what's happened, and has there been any conclusion to the urgent interdict?
Morning, Valen, and morning to the viewers as well. There hasn't been any conclusion to the matter. In fact, the case has not been heard. The legal representatives, the parties affected, these are the clubs affected by the award or the ruling made by arbitrator yesterday. They subsequently then relegated Ajax Cape Town are here at court. In the morning, earlier on, they went on to speak to the judge to explain to her why the matter is urgent, and she indicated to them that she has a few cases to listen to, and perhaps the parties involved should maybe talk on the side and maybe come to an agreement, because there's an urgent matter because of the first promotion relegation playoff match between Platinum Stars and Black Leopard PM, and the parties have been discussing. But indication are that they will submit the agreement, or the agreement they have to the judge later on this morning. But the big argument here is that should the match then continue, and should then the court sitting be later, what will happen to the result or to the points of either team that wins the match, or whether it comes to a draw, what would happen, and whether parties that are the 3 teams that are involved, Jomo Cosmos, Platinum Stars, and Black Leopards, will agree to have the match played today. But then, despite the ruling that could come later on, whether they'll be able to accept that matter. So currently, we're still outside court, and all the legal representatives of SuperSport United, Polokwane City, Amazulu, Platinum Stars, and the PSL, and of course, Ajax Cape Town are currently discussing the way forward.
So this matter is bigger than just Ajax Cape Town. You mentioned some of the other clubs that also have been affected by this decision that came out yesterday from the PSL.
It's actually bigger than Ajax, because remember that now Amazulu dropped out of the top 8, and SuperSport United being awarded that the 3 points, then went on to be part of the top 8. So I think their interest now is to listen in SuperSport United to find out, or to hear whether they will then continue to be part of the top 8, and argue why they should be part of the top 8, and why the ruling that was handed down yesterday should actually stand. While Amazulu will be arguing that they had won the match, or they had guaranteed their spot to the top 8 on the field of play. So it is bigger than the Ajax matter, just Ajax. So I think Polokwane City is also here as well. So it might take quite a while. I don't think it's a matter that could be resolved today because there are, a few options that could be taken by Ajax and the other teams that are mainly affected, which is Amazon and SuperSport United.
Going by what you've managed to assess from the Ajax legal team, maybe you've managed to chat to a couple of them. What are Ajax confident that this would be a successful application? They've gone to court on so many different occasions around what is now being known as Ndorogate.
For the fact that they've come back to court to be able to argue their stance, I think they have the confidence that they shouldn't have been deducted the points that were deducted, because I think their case is based on the TRC ruling, the Dispute Resolution Chamber ruling that to continue playing. But remember that then arbitrator Nasir Kasim had said that the Dispute Resolution Chamber did not have jurisdiction on the matter, and that the FIFA Player Status Committee could resolve the matter. However, subsequently FIFA brought the matter back to SAFA to make a ruling. But the facts are still the same. Nothing has really changed. But for the fact that they brought the matter back to court, I think they are confident that perhaps a different judge sitting could then favor their case.
Lebogang Dube is at the South Gauteng High Court for us. Thank you very much to Lebogang, and you can stay tuned to SABC News for the latest on the outcome of that urgent interdict which was brought to the Johannesburg High Court by Ajax Cape Town. But there are a number of other parties which are also implicated, and their views are also being taken into consideration. Let's move on in our sports bulletin now with international football. French giants Olympique Marseille are looking to rewrite European soccer's history books. Marseille will face Atletico Madrid of Spain in the Europa League final in Lyon in France this evening. Atletico have won the title twice, while no French club has ever managed to lift the title.
It has been 25 years since Marseille won their only Champions League title. And despite having reached the Europa League final twice, they've never been crowned champions. But Marseille believe they're in with a chance.
They have more experience than us, but maybe our salvation will be that it is a one-off match. It is just one game. We've said it before. It feels like anything is possible when it's just one game.
Atletico coach Diego Simeone will watch the match from the sidelines. He received a touchline ban for his behavior during the first leg of the semi-final against Arsenal. Simeone's assistant, Germán Burgos, will take charge of the team.
Despite the sadness that I feel because I'm not going to be as close as I would like to be, I have to say I'm very close to Germán. We've known each other practically all our lives. We have similar experiences and the same vision of soccer as a result of many years together. So whatever is going through his mind is undoubtedly going through mine.
Win or lose, Atletico's top four finish in La Liga has secured their place in next season's Champions League. But Marseille must win the final to guarantee their spot in the prestigious competition. Tonight's match kicks off at 9:15 South African time. Liesel Sankel, SABC News.
Spanish giants Barcelona have arrived in South Africa for this evening's highly anticipated Nelson Mandela Centenary Celebrations Invitational against Mamelodi Sundowns. The La Liga champions touched down at OR Tambo International this morning after a short delay. They'll be spending the day relaxing at a Sandton hotel before this evening's match against the Absa Premiership champions Mamelodi Sundowns at a sold-out F&B stadium. They'll return to Spain straight after the match. Mduduzi and Globo is at the hotel. Mdu, we spoke to you a little bit early on. What's the latest? Okay, it seems Mdu is not on the line. I know that it was very busy outside of the hotel when we chatted to him earlier on. Just confirmation of that fixture that will be taking place this evening. It's all happening at the F&B Stadium. Kickoff is at 6:15. You'll be able to watch the action on SABC News' sister channel, SABC 3. It is in celebration of 100 years of Nelson Mandela. And that's how we come to the end of your sport sport. Shante, it's back to you.
Indeed, thank you very much for that, Valen, taking us through some of the sporting highlights. We now cross live to the Pan-African Parliament. Of course, proceedings had got underway last week. Let's step live.
Problem with the decision that has been taken by the Bureau. But what I am saying, we are sending a wrong signal to the public who have employed us, to the public who have sent us to this assembly, to the public who have a lot of hope in us, in developing and taking as equal to the other continents as we can.
J'ai comme l'impression que vous pensez qu'il y a quelque chose de caché. Le président de la commission est capable de vous dire qu'il est là. Les informations erronées que vous avez.
Erroneous information that you have disseminated and circulated throughout last week is not the right information. We said that we will have a closed session, and people just circulated information, wrong information. This is why we have been losing our partners. The public funds, everybody, each and everyone is free to have the right information and to go to the media and say what happened. But when you take wrong information and disseminate them, you want to manage the parliament, you tarnish the image of the parliament. So I think that you need to have the right information, dear colleagues, to be rightly information. You become citizens. If you are wrongly informed, you become subjects. Therefore, the wrong information has been circulated throughout the week, the previous week, and all that's been said by the people was wrong. So Chief Jurumbira, who's chairperson of Kappa, knows that some wrong information has been harmful to the parliament, but the Bureau said that this was an in-house problem, internal problem, but you are free to talk to the media after the consideration of this report and tell them everything. So we had a joint meeting yesterday, and nobody raised this problem. Nobody objected to it, to the decision. And even people said, does that mean that the entire session will be in a closed session? We said, no, it's only this specific point or item that will be discussed in a closed session.
Point of order. Oui. Yeah. Monsieur le Président, je ne sais pas, I do not know why we should discuss this issue all the day. As you said, the rules of procedure are quite clear, and we have to stick to the rules of procedure. And in addition, you said that there is a certain number of information that was circulated in social networks, and it is a shame for our assembly. If you want us to expose this assembly to the public with such information, let's do that. But as I said, the rules of procedure is as you read it out to us, and you must keep your authority. You will be the last speaker. Mr. President, the proof is that people do a partial reading of our rules.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Shervin Bricebys, SABC News, New York.
Paul Barber, SABC News, London.
Ntebo Mokobo, SABC Ufa Kochamono, Russia.
Neha Punya, SABC News, Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh in India.
Other than that, I've enjoyed every single moment of it.
Takwana Ngatani, SABC News, Soweto, Johannesburg.
Technology is used for both positive and negative.
Some governments block the internet in times of protest.
With this internet blackout, it's impossible for me to do it, so I have to travel to Douala.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens.
In Africa, people are always coming up with innovative ways to use technology
to solve some of their problems.
The more interesting piece of technology is actually the artificial intelligence.
AI, it's utilizing data to make your life easier.
On Network, we'll give you Africa's technology and social media news.
Catch Network with Spumelele Zondi every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Hundreds joined Nahau at its march in the northwest capital Mahikeng, demanding action over provincial crises. Despite a court ruling temporarily putting DeLille back in the mayoral seat, DA Deputy Caucus leader JP Smith insists she is not fit for office. Convicted murderer Christopher Paniatu is to apply for leave to appeal against his conviction and sentence in the Port Elizabeth High Court. Very good morning to you and welcome to SABC Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us in the last hour. Of course, live updates we continue to give you on the Nahau strike in the northwest with our reporters on the ground giving us updates with regards to that memorandum of demands that is set to be taking place, as well as dipping in and out of the Pan-African Parliament and some of the discussions around that much debated report. First things first, let's have a look at your top story. Leading at the top of the hour, convicted murderer Christopher Paniatu is applying for leave to appeal against his conviction and sentence in the Port Elizabeth High Court in the Eastern Cape. Paniatu is serving a life jail term for orchestrating the kidnapping and murder of his wife Jade in April of 2015. Let's continue now with some of the other news stories. Union Nahau is staging a march in the northwest capital, Mahikeng, today. This is, of course, to demand action on the crisis in the province. Scores of people have gathered at the Motiwa Stadium to march to the provincial legislature. We have been giving you updates all throughout the course of the morning. SABC's Oleboheng Khosiletswe joins us now from the Northwest Legislature, where the march will be ending as they hand over that memorandum of demands. A very good morning to you, Oleboheng. When can we expect the marchers to be handing over that memorandum?
Good morning, Shante. Well, the march was meant to start at 10 o'clock. We understand that, marchers have gathered at Motiwa Stadium, as you've just alluded. But I understand from my colleague, Bafedile Moerane, on the other side of town that the march has not begun, meaning that they have not left Motiwa Stadium. That will inevitably mean that the time for the handing over of the memorandum will also be delayed. We're expecting the memorandum to be handed over to the chairperson of the interministerial task team that has been, that is responsible for reporting and the governance of the Northwest Province, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who is here in the province and who will be awaiting that memorandum. But I understand that from my colleagues that they are still waiting for more people from all over the country, more Nahau affiliates from places like Limpopo and other provinces, so they cannot begin that march before they have arrived. So I'm anticipating that perhaps by 1 o'clock we'll be seeing that memorandum being handed to Mayor Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Shante?
Earlier on, throughout the build-up to this morning's march, Nahau members were saying that they would possibly bring a shutdown to Mahikeng. What special measurements have been put in place in terms of security arrangements and contingents during the handing over of the memorandum?
Well, Shante, as I'm sure you can see behind me in the background, there are scores of police. We have police nyalas, water cannons, vans, and all types of police vehicles. There are scores of police from all over the country to make sure that this is a peaceful march, as the Nahau affiliates have been saying and have been, assuring the province. So there's quite a lot of police here in Mahikeng, in and around Mahikeng. From the past couple of weeks when there were violent protests in the province, those police officials have not yet left the province until such time that there is complete calm in the province. So we can say that the police have a hold of things and that we don't expect this to be a violent march at all. Shante?
Just take us through some of the reasonings why Minister in the Presidency and Chairperson of the Interim Ministerial Task Team, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, will be receiving the memorandum and also at the same time will be releasing an interim report.
Well, as you can recall, throughout the past couple of weeks and months, if I may even add, Shante, members of Nahau have been on a go-slow, and they have made it very clear that they don't have faith in the leadership of this province. Hence, that they will be handing over the memorandum to the Interministerial Task Team. So they are saying that this is an act, to show that, in their words, we have a bankruptcy in leadership in the province, and there is nobody here in the province that is worthy in their eyes to receive this memorandum. And you remember that the Interministerial Task Team is here precisely for those reasons, to find, the problems and uproot them in the province, so to speak. And so in the Nahau's eyes, it's befitting that the memorandum be handed over to the Interministerial Task Team. And when you mentioned that the task team will be handing over their report on their work in the province, that is true. We're expecting to move as soon as they've handed over the memorandum. We're expected to move from Mahikeng and drive to Lichtenburg, which is about 60 kilometers from here, where the Interministerial Task Team will be releasing to the media the report on their findings and maybe recommendations as far as the governance of the Northwest Province is concerned. So it's quite a big day. It's quite a big news day in the province, particularly Mahikeng today. Shante?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the memorandum, what are some of the major expected points that we can highlight from that memorandum of demands?
Well, we know by now that the health department is in shambles, so to speak. The Nahau affiliates have been protesting for 2 months now. Social development has been on a go-slow ever since the 15th of December last year. So among the issues are issues that emanated from the call for Premier Supra Mahumapelo to step down. Those issues being maladministration, corruption, accusations of corruption, maladministration, money impropriety in the different departments, a lack of service delivery to the people of the Northwest Province. They really, at the core of their grievances, is that Premier Supra Mahumapelo must step down because he has done nothing in their eyes to develop the province. There has been a lot of maladministration in his governance. He has not, tightened screws. In fact, they accuse him of an array of corruption, money laundering, mismanagement of resources in the province. So now Nahau is really saying that they will no longer sit and watch and play idle while the government, the Northwest Province, is sinking. So, that is the real reason. There's quite a lot of reasons as to why they're protesting, but those issues that I've highlighted are at the center of why they have called on this big march today. And it's also very important to highlight that they have said that the Interministerial Task Team has only 24 hours from the time that they'll be handing them the memorandum to respond to their grievances, failure to which they will comfortably, they said, declare a national shutdown of departments where all Nahau affiliates are employed. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how the Interministerial Task Team will respond to that memorandum. Shante?
Thank you very much for that. We'll leave it there. That was SABC's Oleboheng Khoselentwe from the Northwest Legislature giving us updates on that. Now, how will march as well as the handing over of the Memorandum of Demands, which is set to take place throughout the course of the morning. Well, drama was averted at the Pan-African Parliament. This after President Roger Nkodo was forced to schedule a debate on a motion of Palestine, but he told the Parliament that he could not allow for debate of motion before it was deliberated at the African Union. The decision, which did not go well with some of the MPs. For more on this story, we cross to our reporter on the ground, Ndakawana Ngatane. A very good morning to you. We just dipped in just as the debate seemed to be getting a bit heated this morning in the Pan-African Parliament. Take us through this morning's highlights. A very good morning to Ntakawane. Can you hear us in studio?
Hi. Well, good morning and welcome to the Pan-African Parliament, where the media and observers have just been ordered to go out of the chamber of the Pan-African Parliament. And this is ahead of the much-awaited debate on audit and public accounts. This is a debate that's been raging since this Parliament started sitting last Monday, because members here are concerned that the Bureau, that the Secretariat of the Pan-African Parliament is not accounting. And also today they're concerned that this particular debate that many have been waiting for is now being closed to the public. Some members of this Parliament, including South Africa's Santosh Kalyan, who comes from the DA and the Parliament of South Africa, expressing concern that, in fact, according to the rules, the Pan-African Parliament is supposed to be a transparent institution. Some members of this Parliament saying that this institution is funded by the public, and so it should be accountable to the public, and members of the public should in fact know what is going on. But the President, Roger Nkodo, expresses concern that information has gone into the public domain that was not supposed to, and therefore he felt and made a ruling that this Parliament will discuss that report in a closed session. So for now, as you can see behind me, these doors are locked for members to discuss that report inside the chamber by themselves. Perhaps we can find out when they come out what the outcomes are. But again, the Member of Parliament for South Africa, Santosh Kalyan, earlier on this week spoke to us to say that if this report was not presented, and if it was not presented in public, and if they felt that the information that comes out of that report is not sufficient, they will demand a forensic audit into the activities of this Parliament. So for now, we are outside of the chamber of the Pan-African Parliament. Back to you in studio.
Ntaka, why don't you just take us through some of the other morning's highlights that were discussed in the Pan-African Parliament, as well as the other concerns that have been raised by MPs?
Well, this morning, what actually happened is that we had a few reports, one on ICT and one called Connecting the Dots. This is about arms trade and the dealing in arms on the African continent. Members have presented reports that they say that should be shared experiences going around the continent, and several case studies from the various countries of the continent. But as I say, the much-awaited report was the third item on the agenda or the order paper of this Parliament, and that was supposed to be this report that is now being discussed here today. It is the terminal report of President Roger Nkodo Dang's 3-year term that ended when he resigned last week and was re-elected as President of this Parliament. Members have expressly said that they wanted him to have accounted before he stepped down, so that it determined whether or not he should in fact be elected again, but that did not happen. happened. Some members had said that, in fact, this report ought to have been the first item on the agenda when this particular session set, but that did not happen. It's only coming now, and even as it comes, as I say, this is a closed session that members tried to object to, but were overruled. Shante?
Thank you very much for giving us that update from the Pan-African Parliament, Dakawana Ngatane, for SABC News. We do believe now that media has been told to leave the debate. We will be giving you more updates on that. And some other news stories. Ajay Gupta has denied all allegations of state capture leveled against him. Gupta broke his silence around his current status since he left South Africa in March after a summons was issued for his arrest. He is currently in his hometown of Saharanpur, and he's told Indian media that he wants to set the record straight for the people of his home. He claims that he was malaligned by the press in South Africa, saying the media in this country have an agenda against him. Responding to the allegations of state capture, Ajay says there is no proof of any of the allegations that have been leveled against his family. He also maintains that all his family members, except himself, are South African citizens. We'll continue with some other news. Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba has launched a new digital identification system as part of the department's modernization program at a breakfast meeting in Cape Town. The automated biometric identification system, also known as ABIS, replaces Home Affairs' current national identification system, which is manually operated and outdated. Gigaba says the new system will improve the way that we identify as South Africans, as well as the identification of foreign nationals are being authenticated.
This system is going to drastically improve the way we identify South Africans and authenticate the identification of South Africans, including foreign nationals, because it relies not only on the fingerprint scan and facial recognition. It goes a step forward in scanning your DNA, in relying on your iris scan and footprint identification, especially for minor children. It's going to form the backbone of government identification and will enable not only government and other government departments, but also the private sector to be able to authenticate the identities of their clients. It's more reliable than the Home Affairs National Identification System that we have been administering at the present moment. And it actually enables us now going forward to introduce new innovation that will enable services at the department to be quicker, to be more efficient, but also it will enable us to innovate and diversify the points of service that we currently have, so that people don't always have to come to the Department of Home Affairs for the services, but they can be serviced at different points of service.
Why was it time to modernize? We heard you saying in your speech, it's time to upgrade, it's time to modernize. Why now?
Well, we've been running the modernization program for the last few years, and we have arrived with this at a point where we need to just up our game a little bit, because we intend during the course of this year to also start launching the national identity system, which is going to integrate the various forms of identification that we have, the HANIS, the Home Affairs National Identification System, the National Immigration Identification System, the Movement Control System, so that we have a single point of identity that we can rely on, whether it is for South Africans or foreign nationals. It will make it quicker for us to authenticate, to verify the identity of a person. It will improve the economy in terms of tourism and in terms of travel. It will improve services in terms of not only Home Affairs but other government departments, but it will also improve fighting crime, because the police will be able to authenticate the identities of people and the fingerprints which they find. All of that will happen quickly, and I think that our partners in the banking sector, in tourism, are going to be quite excited by the fact that this is going to have a positive spin-off on the economy. The Minister of Small Business and Cooperatives Development, the Minister of Social Development, the Minister of Transport will also be beneficiaries of this system, in that It's going to assist us to develop a small-scale ICT sector in South Africa that's going to support various government departments through various technology solutions that will be required in terms of the work that we are going to do, and to identify the social grants beneficiaries, verify their identities, and make sure that the people who claim such benefits are exactly who they claim they are.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
No. Yes. Yes.
Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
32 nations, 44 matches live on SABC 1 and 19 SABC radio stations. SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Welcome back to SABC Newsroom. We'll continuing to give you updates on the Pan-African Parliament as the proceedings enter now the second week. We have been giving you highlights from this morning. Ntakawana Gatane has been joining us, giving us updates with regards to what has taken place. We do know that controversial report on the current president of PAP has been brought into question. Last week, many MPs were actually calling for that report to actually be read out before the new president or the re-election of the president was held out. So let's cross back to Ntakawana Gatane, as we do know that media now this morning has now been asked to recuse itself from the actual sitting this morning. We do know that it is in public interest, as has been said, that PAP is supplied and funded by the public. Very good morning to you, Ntakawana. Just take us through some of the initial reaction now as the sitting has now been closed off to media.
Well, that's right, Chante. And as I said earlier, some of the members of this parliament in the chamber, even before the media walked out, had already started asking why it is that this parliament, or at least this particular session, is not open to the media. And their reasoning is that the parliament, the African Union, is funded by member states and by the public. So it should be open, and all of its sessions should be open to the public. But I have got initial reactions. Earlier on, we heard from Member of Parliament of South Africa, Santosh Kalyan. She said, when we spoke to her earlier on this week, that she would be demanding a forensic audit because they were not happy that the accountability that they were expecting was indeed forthcoming. But let's get some reaction from other MPs. And from Swaziland, we have Ndate Victor Hlatwayo. Ndate, what is your sense of this decision that's been made by the president now?
Thank you so much, my dear. First of all, I would want to appreciate the efforts in ensuring that whatever happens in PAP is reported to the people across the globe. Basically, what I would say is that, yes, indeed, for the first time in my tenure as a member of PAP, where the president, possibly in deliberation with or in agreement with the Bureau, they've decided that this CAPA report, which basically looks at the overall activities of the accounts of the institution, such the report be discussed in enclosure. So it's something very, very strange to us, and we believe for transparency, all sessions or all deliberations should be done in an open, so that we play our oversight role and we are totally accountable to the people of Africa. So it's a strange move But then what is of interest is that the president has said members are free after the session to come and discuss the contents of the deliberation inside with whatsoever media platform. So that's where it becomes controversial, because we can't understand why then the media was taken out when the president can simply say we can go out and discuss. So it's a bit tricky for us. We can't say he's running away or he's not running away, because he has given us the permission to come and discuss the contents of the deliberation which is being discussed in. Yes, maybe I would say it happens. In Swaziland we also have some sessions which we believe can be deliberated, not financial issues, because financial issues are the core functions of the parliament to deliberate on. So if we have those housekeeping, that's when maybe we can have a closure deliberation, but this one is a bit strange for us. However, we believe members would come up in numbers to share what exactly was being discussed inside there. Maybe of interest again is that the report is already in circulation outside, so I can't find the logic why we are discussing or we're debating some of the contents in enclosure, yet the report is already in the public domain.
Now, since the sitting began last week, we have had allegations that have gone into the public domain, some anonymous whistleblowers saying that the president himself may be involved in some misappropriation of funds and trips that should not have happened. Are you concerned as members of parliament if a sitting like this is in closing?
Well, it raises a lot of suspicion, or if not to confirm what a number of people have been, alleging. So it's a real concern. But unfortunately, if you look at the CAPA reports, it doesn't pinpoint a number of mismanagement of funds. So that's one of the things which we wanted to ask from the committee members of CAPA as to, what is their take on the issues that are circulating around PAP about the trips and so on and so on. And I remember, my dear, yesterday the question was put on the president when we were discussing the activity report as to how much money was spent on the visits and the activities. So we're still looking forward to get those responses. Maybe the CAPA itself would look at that in the future so that it brings a very comprehensive and audited statement. As some of the members have said, that it will be of public interest to have an audited statements of the PAP.
Victor Tlachwayo from Eswatini Kingdom telling us his reaction to the decision that has now been made, at least by the president or the bureau, not to allow the media and observers to be part of the debate that's happening here around public accounts and audit of the Pan-African Parliament. But in terms of what he's mentioning about the trips of the president, there are suspicions that trips, about 31 countries that the president visited, while he was saying that he is trying to lobby countries to ratify the Malabo Protocol to give this parliament legislative powers, may have been his campaigning. And some of the members of this parliament still looking for answers, and some even saying that they want a forensic audit to ensure that the funds that are allocated for the Pan-African Parliament are indeed used for the Pan-African Parliament. Shante?
Let's leave it there. Ndakawana Gatane for SABC News, giving us some of those concerns around the PAP sitting this morning. We will be giving you updates on that. For now, though, let's take a short break here on SABC's Newsroom.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
The Western Cape needs national government to fulfill its mandate on ensuring a bulk water supply.
We must ensure that the city of Cape Town never confronts this particular situation again.
The ESCOM is serious about stamping out corruption, which is why the market is now beginning to accommodate us.
Looking at neighboring countries, expecting Botswana just to see partly cloudy skies with a half 34 in Gaborone.
News today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
So TB continues to be the top infectious killer worldwide, claiming 4,500 lives a day. It is estimated that approximately 1% of the global population is autistic. So if you're on a medical aid, how well do you understand the benefit structure and how your medical aid generally works? And if you're not on a medical aid, have you considered belonging to one? So how much and what should you know about this condition? Is it curable? Can people living with epilepsy, for instance, play sport, drive cars, get employed? 7 million people around the world die annually as a result of tobacco use.
For Health Tip, catch Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will co-chair the International Labour Organization's Commission with Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven. UN Women's Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka weighs in on the Sudanese government's decision to sentence a woman to death for killing her husband for trying to rape her. The protesters marched in Nairobi to support a Kenyan woman who was forced to breastfeed her child in the toilet of a city restaurant because the management thought that she was being offensive. Police store at the half hour, Labour Minister Mildred Oliphant remains confident that South Africa's economy will soon turn the tide of unemployment. Responding to yesterday's announcement of the 26.7% unemployment figure, Oliphant blamed, among others, last year's rating downgrades. S&P Global and Fitch downgraded the country to junk status during the political uncertainty, which led to cabinet reshuffles. Oliphant spoke to the SABC on the sidelines of a meeting of the Global Commission on the Future of Work in Geneva, Switzerland.
We are participating in the programs that the President has highlighted during the State of the Nation address, particularly when it comes to the young people being supported on skills development. And also we have ring-fenced 5 billion rands to support the very same program through IDC. And we also have we are going to have a session with BIC to say when they support the companies in terms of the investment, they must make sure that those programs are labor intensive. So by doing so, that is what we are doing. And as we speak, we are also training young people, particularly focusing on the skills that we don't even have as the Department of Labor, particularly in the compensation fund, of which they are progressing very well because they are now in their second year. And I must say, I was so proud to see them yesterday, the 22 of them who are being trained in the University of Cape Town.
Just on this unemployment figure, why do you think it remains so stubbornly high? What are some of these bottlenecks?
It's because we had the challenges, if you recall, in 2008 there was a crisis when it comes to the economy of the country, but also, as you're well aware, the rating agencies downgraded our country, but we are progressing now very well, and I believe that since we have now came out of that stage, probably we are going to be able to go further and create more jobs.
Well, UN Women's Executive Director Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka has spoken out about the Sudan government's death sentence against a woman who killed her husband as he tried to rape her. 19-year-old Noura Hussein, who was forced into marriage by her family at the age of 16, faces death by hanging after a Sharia court found her guilty of premeditated murder for stabbing her husband. Various United Nations agencies and rights groups are urging Khartoum to grant her clemency.
We want to make sure that this girl does not die, that she is released, because this is a child who was forced to marry against her will. She appealed to her parents. She was sent back to the same man that she was running away from. All she ever wanted was to be a school teacher. The Sudanese government is a partner with us in fighting violence against women. Last year, during the 16 days of activism, we were working with them. We are calling for them to honor the promises that we've made together to the girls of the world. UNFPA, UNICEF, ourselves, many NGOs have shown that it is horrible to force children to marry as early as 16, some of them 10, because it just kills the nation. It kills the girl. It is a violation of their right.
Well, protesters marched in Nairobi to support a Kenyan woman who was forced to breastfeed her child in the toilet of a city restaurant because the management thought that she was being offensive. Well, women face harassment for breastfeeding in public in many parts of the world. There is no law in Kenya that prohibits nursing a baby in public, but activists want breastfeeding to be protected by law. The Breastfeeding Mother Bill, introduced and passed in Parliament in 2017, obligates employers and public facilities to make provisions for mothers to nurse their children in a set-aside place that is clean, comfortable and secure. The bill, however, has not been signed into law by the President.
This demonstration here is to create awareness about the rights of breastfeeding mothers. And we want to also to create a platform for a dialogue which the country needs to have, and it's long overdue. We want to say that breastfeeding mothers have a right to breastfeed anywhere they please and without feeling humiliated or shamed for doing something which comes natural. And we are also saying that we will not allow a sacred bond between a mother and a child to be sexualized.
The U.S. Justice Department and the FBI are investigating Cambridge Analytica, the British marketing analytics firm embroiled in the Facebook data scandal, and have questioned potential witnesses. Well, CA has vehemently denied exploiting data obtained from up to 87 million Facebook users for Donald Trump's presidential campaign, claiming that it deleted data obtained in breach of the social network's terms of service.
U.S. authorities have launched an investigation into Cambridge Analytica, the now defunct company at the center of Facebook's data privacy scandal. That's according to the New York Times on Tuesday. They reported that both the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI are questioning former employees and even banks that handled the company's business. Cambridge Analytica shut its doors earlier this month after it lost clients and faced growing legal fees. The political data firm was once used by the Trump campaign and came under scrutiny for harvesting the data of 87 million Facebook users. The new investigation appears to focus on the company's financial dealings and how it acquired and used personal data. According to the Times, investigators have also contacted Facebook. The FBI, Justice Department, and Facebook have declined to comment to Reuters, and former officials with Cambridge Analytica were not immediately available.
Well, staying with news abroad, Senator Kamala Harris grilled Department of Homeland Security Chief Kirstjen Nielsen on the separation of immigrant mothers from their children when they're apprehended for entering the U.S. illegally.
As I sit here today, I'm extremely concerned about the administration's repeated attacks on some of the most vulnerable communities, and in particular children and pregnant women. Have you been directed to separate parents from children as a method of deterrence of undocumented immigration?
I have not been directed to do that for purposes of deterrence, no.
What purpose have you been given for separating parents from their children?
So my decision has been that anyone who breaks the law will be prosecuted. If you're a parent or you're a single person or you happen to have a family, if you cross between the ports of entry, we will refer you for prosecution. You've broken U.S. law.
So your agency will be separating children from their parents. And
no,
I would
what we'll be doing is prosecuting parents who have broken the law, just as we do every day in the United States of America.
I can appreciate that. But if that parent has a 4-year-old child, what do you plan on doing with that child?
The child under law goes to HHS for care and custody.
They will be separated from their parent.
Just like we do in the United States every day.
So they will be separated from their parent. And my question then is, when you are separating children from their parents, do you have a protocol in place about how that should be done? And are you training the people who will actually remove a child from their parent on how to do that in the least traumatic way? I would hope you do.
I'm happy to provide you with the training information.
Thank you. And what steps are being taken, if you can tell me, to ensure that once separated, parent and child, that there will be an opportunity to at least sustain communication between the parent and their child?
The children are at HHS, but I'm happy to work with HHS to get you an answer for that.
Well, Ajay Gupta's denied all allegations of state capture against him and his family in South Africa. He was speaking to Indian media in his hometown of Saharanpur. He says he wants to set the record straight for the people of his hometown. Gupta claims he was malaligned by the press in South Africa, saying the media in this country have an agenda against him. He says his family has always worked honestly and ethically. Gupta has dismissed a question about court cases against him in South Africa.
They can file as many cases against me as they like. They will not win a single case. My family has worked honestly and ethically. We have never worked with the government. Out of all our companies, our turnover that is linked to the government is only from 1 to 7%. So I don't understand how we have allegedly benefited from the government. We've not benefited at all.
Well, Gupta also says that Duduzane Zuma became their business partner in South Africa well before his father, Jacob Zuma, was elected president in 2009.
Jacob Zuma's son has been our business partner in South Africa since 2006-2007. In South Africa, there's a system that mandates that 36% of your management needs to go towards black empowerment, since the community was previously disadvantaged. This could have been Zuma's son or someone else. He was our partner on merit, not because he was Zuma's son.
Break here on SABC Newsroom. When we come back, Valen Kirtley standing by with all your sporting highlights.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Hello, I'm Simpiwe Ngongwane, and as usual, I'm in the company of the pearl of the show.
And yes, I'm Pearl Shongwe, and this is the weekend edition of Morning Live,
where we bring you news stories, making headlines, weather updates, and the latest in the world of sports.
Every weekend on Saturday and Sunday mornings, we bring you, our viewer, vibrant, exciting, informative current stories here on the SABC News Channel 404.
And we also put a spotlight on creative art stories, book reviews, poetry, and various topical stories. We also bring you live outside broadcast as well as live music performances.
All of this every weekend
between 6 and 9 here on the SABC News Channel 404.
Welcome back to Newsroom. Good day to you. Let's start off your sports bulletin with this news. Spanish giants Barcelona have arrived in South Africa for this evening's highly anticipated Nelson Mandela Centenary Celebrations Invitational against Mamelodi Sundowns. The La Liga champions touched down at OR Tambo International this morning in Johannesburg after a short delay. They'll be spending the day relaxing at a Sandton hotel before this evening's match against the APSA Premiership champions at a sold-out F&B. Barcelona will return to Spain straight after the match. Ajax Cape Town are back in court to stop the promotion relegation playoffs from commencing today. This after the Cape side was found guilty of fielding Zimbabwean international striker Tendai Ndoro illegitimately. Ajax forfeit 3 matches and are now automatically relegated from the Premier Soccer League, while Platinum Stars will contest in the playoffs.
The decision by the process of arbitration has all sorts of ramifications as far as the ABSA Premiership block is concerned. After being awarded the 3 points from the Ajax game, Platinum Stars will now finish 15th with 27 points, while Polokwane City moved to 12th. They get a further 2 points and now have 36 points. Point is SuperSport United's gain and Amazulu's loss. Amazulu will lose their top 8 spot after SuperSport, who finished on 36 points, were awarded 3 extra points. SuperSport move up from 11th place to 7th on the log, with Amazulu automatically dropping to 9th spot. Ever the matter could be far from over. Ajax, who have been to the Johannesburg High Court several times before, are seeking legal opinion on the matter. The Urban Warriors are seeking an urgent interdict at the Johannesburg High Court to stop the playoffs from taking place. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Moving on to football news abroad, world champions Germany have left out their 2014 World Cup final goal scorer Mario Götze. The country's national coach Joachim Low announced his World Cup squad that will attend a training camp in the Italian Alps from the 23rd of May to the 5th of June. Low left out midfielder Götze, who scored the winning goal in the final against Argentina 4 years ago, but has had a lackluster season. Among the surprises during the announcement, first-choice goalkeeper Manuel Neuer was included in the preliminary World Cup squad despite having been out of action since September. The 32-year-old Neuer suffered a broken bone in his foot and only returned to training days ago. But Germany coach decided to take 4 keepers to the training camp in fellow Borussia Dortmund player Marco Reus's hopes of making his first World Cup got a boost after he also made the cut. And entries for the 2018 Mandela Marathon have opened. This year's edition will form part of the Struggle Icon Centenary celebrations. Over 18,000 athletes are expected to run the 42-kilometer race between Pietermaritzburg and the Mandela Capture Site in Howick.
The Nelson Mandela Marathon, one of the biggest road races on the KwaZulu-Natal athletic calendar. It's in honor of the world icon, former President Nelson Mandela. The 2018 race will be special, especially to the runners, as Nelson Mandela would have turned 100 years old this year. The 2 days event include a 42-kilometer marathon and a triathlon.
Athletes can start entering for the Mandela Day Marathon, happening on the 27th of August of this year, and we are urging athletes to enter as early as possible. We are limiting the numbers to 18,000.
Entries close on the 31st of July. The triathlon takes place on Saturday 25th August and the marathon the following day. Londi Khatebe, SABC News, Howick.
That's how we come to the end of your sport on Newsroom. It's also how we come to the end of today's show, Shante. It's been a really busy one, hasn't it?
It definitely has been. I think the highlight has definitely been our reporter. Just as he saw Messi walk right past him, it was a very, very nice moment and a nice build-up to tonight's friendly, Gavela.
It certainly is. It's a whirlwind tour for the La Liga champions, Barcelona. And yes, Lionel Messi even giving the SABC News reporter, Mduduzi and Lobo and SABC News a big thumbs up.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for joining us on SABC Newsroom. We do it between 9 and 12 weekdays until tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No, it was really good.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.